보스님은 이제 포지션이 원딜인데 로우라는 딜은 안 넣고 뒤에서 잘한다 하시더라고요.
잘한다.
저는 퍼스트고 보스 선수는 서든데 어떻게 보면 두 단계 차이가 나는 것 같아요.
룰러 선수 이제 퍼스트 팀을 받으셔서 굉장히 신나하시는 것 같은데 그걸로 만족하시고 우승은 제가 하겠습니다.
저는 베릴 선수랑 스타일이 많이 다르다고 생각하는 게 도구는 도구답게 플레이해야 되는데 베릴 선수는 보스 선수 자리를 좀 탐낸다고 해야 되나?
딱히 별 생각 없이 게임해가지고
저는 사파피그 하려면은 룰러형 허락을 받아야 돼서 이번 결승에서는 보여주고 싶습니다.
라이프 선수가 제가 알기로 난입 마공풀의 희초라고 할 수 있는 선수이기 때문에 자기가 자신 있는 거거나 아니면 뭐 조합에 맞춰서 픽하지 않을까 싶어요.
보여주실 거 다 보여준 것 같은데 더 남아있다고 하시더라고요.
쓰고 싶은 건 있는데 너프돼서 못 쓸 것 같아요. 저 샤코 서폿이요.
저렇게 하고 싶은 픽 할 수 있구나. 솔직히 조금 부러웠었습니다.
인생 운명설이라고 이제 물 흐르듯이 가는 대로 하면 될 것 같다. 받아들여야죠.
일단 스프링 결승전이 재미없다는 얘기가 많이 나오는데 저희가 재미없게 이겼으면 좋겠네요. 3대 0으로 빠르게 재미없게.
근데 굳이 3대 0이 아니더라도 젠지 경기는 워낙 재미가 없거든요. 진짜 졸려요.
근데 뭐 3대 0으로 끝내도 이제 재밌게 끝낼 수 있어요. 네. 게임 내용이 흥미진진하면 되니까.
제 개인적으로는 3년째 스프링 결승을 꾸준히 오는 건데
이번에 제가 우승하게 된다면 5회 우승 탑라이너가 됐는데
저는 아직 주전으로 우승을 해본 적이 없었고 항상 갈망했었거든요. 미안한데 이번에는 내가 가져갈게 형.
LCK를 오랫동안 좀 뛰면서 우승 트로피가 아직 한 번도 없어요. 꼭 우승했으면 좋겠고
이번에 어렵게 잡은 기회인 만큼
죽을 각오로 열심히 하겠습니다.
And this is the true reason why we missed Khan so much while he was away last year. Wolf, like, just extraordinary when it comes to trash talk.
I mean, he's got a lot of history. He's looking for his 5th title tonight. It was really interesting to hear a lot of people calling him a Scion 1 champ when he actually has played more champions than Rascal has. He's 15 to Rascal's 13 at the moment. Played a lot of those one-off champions we saw in those one-sided series where it probably didn't have to worry about draft too much. But I'm excited to see the trash talk come through. Genji looking for that 3-0 boring series. I think that's it. What if you're a G1, if you're a Genji fan right now, that's what you're hoping for going into this one because, again, they are the big underdogs.
That is exactly right. Was there anything that you picked up, Chronicler, that really resonated with you?
I think that life being like, please, Ruler, let me play fun champions. And the Ruler's like, no, you are going to play something useful. And Beryl, you know, goes pick Senna. And Beryl just gets to have all the fun that he wants in the world.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
No, it's absolutely fantastic. But let's have a look at the points of the match and have a look at all of the stats, all of the things that our teams are bringing to this one. Both of them been playing extraordinarily well as we come to the end of the season. Damwon Kia falling, actually, to Genji in their last best of 3. But I think that that was a long way in the past. Let's have a look at them now as we see they've been pretty good at winning when it comes to best of 5s.
4th finals in a row. You know, you include the Kesper Cup in this, the 2020 Summer Finals, as well as Worlds. This is a team that is very on fire right now, and this is a team that's looking to build that dynasty that SK Telecom T1 holds right now in terms of Korean success as #1, and they are getting closer and closer with every single finals they get. You look at some of the stats here, and the first thing you'll notice is they do very well while ahead.
Yeah, and let's have a look at Genji's side. Their playoff best of 5 record still suffering. However, that match against T1 might give the fans hope.
And that is what I'm going to be looking towards because even though it is only a single best of 3, or best of 5 rather, it still does say a lot about the form that the team is currently on, the confidence that they have coming into this match. And you're going to need confidence because when it comes to just the sheer power that this Damwon Kia squad has in basically every lane, it's an incredibly rough one. I actually don't know if we're going to get a lot of action here today in the top lane because it has been a lot of Cyan. Although Rascal does find solo kills even with Cho'Gath, so everything is possible.
Yep, if we do get round 1 Rascal back again, it will be a pretty difficult story potentially for Damwon, but we'll just have to see whether that is going to happen. Of course, Khan and Rascal were teammates back in the day, and now able to take each other out. I can't believe this is the first time they're meeting in a final, as of course, solo kills definitely up there for good old Rascal, but this is the matchup that I think is going to be on most people's minds.
This is going to be the really tough one, right? When you take a look at Canyon here in terms of his stats, like he ends up farming way better than Clid in the jungle. He's had a way better track record. I mean, this is the World's Finals MVP. This is regular season MVP here for the 2021 Spring Split. He showed a massive champion pool even when he didn't need to. And right now, when jungle is still such a crucial part of draft, I mean, it's very often decided in that first phase, this is the guy you really have to watch out for. And I feel like Clid is just not up to the task at the moment in terms of what he's been able to accomplish on the other side of the rift.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will come down to what champions both of these players are going to get. Will the Hecarim ever actually come out? But let's move to the mid lane now as Showmaker and BDD up against one another. Very similar champion pools. And if BDD keeps the form that he was on in the semi-final, this is going to be a huge one.
Because that was really, with triple POG, what put them over the edge against T1, right? The man was hitting blind scatters repeatedly against the greatest League of Legends player of all time, right? Yeah. And sure, you can argue about current form, but this is a BDD that has historically had so much issue with actually finding consistency and finding the level that we know he's capable of playing throughout the regular split, and he's actually bringing it to semis. And what I'm expecting is he's also going to bring it to playoffs here.
Yeah, and this is the, Syndra that you expect to see him playing, right? Now, this is the overlapping champion we talked about. This is when Faker made a huge mistake in that semifinals, and BDD was able to get the counter kill while crab raving. But the Syndra priority was very high for BDD. He's only played 5 champions this season. I think he's actually the lowest champion pool across all playoff players in this season. So, excited to see how that overlaps. But taking a look at the bot duo here, this is where, Chronicler, you actually feel like Gen G has a pretty big edge, and it's a pretty big reason why you think they might actually take this series.
Because I think that one of the strongest parts of Damwon Kia, and you can look at this for the 2020 World Victory as well, is how insane Beryl is at roaming around the map and enabling the rest of his team, right? And I think that if you get a good matchup, which Gen G has been super diligent about securing in draft for Ruler and Life, they can keep the Damwon Kia bot lane on the back foot. Even with something like Ghost Senna, which by all metrics is just insane in terms of how comfortable he is on the champion and to what extent it frees up Beryl to pick stuff, to move around, it's still a matchup where I feel like if you focus enough attention there and you can get a Kalista, you can get a Jinx, something that Ruler is really, really confident on, you can find an angle there.
Yeah, you can see he's got quite a wide pool that he plays actually down here in the bot lane with this Kalista. Life, definitely someone to watch out for in terms of his champion pool. Very difficult to draft against this duo if you're looking for duo priority on the bot side.
Yeah, the thing that's difficult is that you look at Kalista as being a permaban against Ruler, as well as now his Jinx that has really come to the forefront. So certainly something to look out for, and I think the draft is going to become all that more important based on that, right? Because we've seen Renekton and Kalista always banned away from these guys. But let's move on to Damwon Kia and their abilities in the early game. Wolf, you've got some opinions about this particular graphic.
I mean, this particular graphic shows that they are the best team at snowballing, but we also have to remember they are the most winning team. A 16-2 team going into playoffs is a team that is going to have incredible stats while ahead. But the thing that's really interesting to me about Damwon Kia is their ability to win these games, these rare, 5%, 8%, right, when they're not ahead at 15, ahead at 20, minutes, ahead with first blood, is when they win those games, they're behind. And that's what's so scary about this team. They always win when they're ahead, but they usually win when they're behind as well.
Yeah, they just usually win, is what we're getting here. Not necessarily against Gen G. They're 3-3 when it comes to the season, and Gen G have been doing it with a lot of these necessary bans against them as well. Renekton and Kalista have been taken away from this team absolutely more often than not.
And you have to, because the Renekton combined with Klid's Nidalee has been a dominant force. You can see the win rate over there as well for the early split Gen G. And slowly, we saw Gen G move away to the classic Gen G, the team fighting style, and that's what I'm expecting to see here today. And I think that's what they need to actually hold a candle to the insane mid to late game that Damwon Kia has.
Yeah, I'm looking at Rascal's champions, right? He's targeted on his Renekton. He's targeted on his Camille. Obviously, that was earlier on in the season, but his Cho'Gath has come up big. He's played a lot of Ornn recently. He's undefeated on the champion. That's where a lot of the drafting against Gen G has gone. Let's see how flexible he can be against one of the best drafting teams in the world.
Yeah, this is the really interesting part. Of course, Damwon Kia will be starting off on the blue side. They'll have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to those bans. Do they throw them at Ruler? Do they make sure that Ghost and Beryl have a better matchup? Or do they focus on that top side and make sure that Khan can potentially blind pick that Sion so that they can find themselves a better matchup elsewhere? There are so many questions when it comes to the draft, and we are very, very close to getting that underway as well. Oh man, gentlemen, like, I still think that this is 100% Damwon favored, but first we need to have a look at the predictions and
Fred's
see whether
time.
there's anybody that's with me. First, let's have a look at the Korean broadcasters. Dongjun with a 3-1, Cloud Templar 3-1 as well. Kankwi with 3-0, respect. And Nofei, who was our Gen G predictor in the T1 series, he's gone for a very close 3-2.
That's right. And if you take a look at ours, of course, it's only going to be Chroniclers. Got the 3-2. Valdez also 3-2, but for Damwon Kia. Alice, you went for the 3-0. I think Gen G can take a game in this series, but I think it has to be the first game. You don't take that one, change mine to a 3-0.
Yeah, no, it does become very, very difficult. And Bitol, Gorilla, and Kuro, they're also similarly thinking that Gen G are going to be able to take at least one. Of course, Gorilla went for the 3-2 because he's got friends on both sides of the rift, and was kind of forced into making sure that he made it as even as possible. But you guys at home, 80% in favor of Damwon Kia, and I think that this is actually skewed a little bit as of, more recently, and we have got a few extra Gen G votes in there. So, thankfully, some of the Gen G fans have woken up and have been able to send them their energy, because 20% is a lot better than what I was expecting, to be perfectly honest. I was thinking that we might be getting towards around an 11%.
I think it might have been the rap song that, like
the rap battle was
convinced
definitely
some
won by
people.
Gen G, yeah.
I think that might be the case.
Well, let's take a look at Damwon Kia, right? Defending world champions. No changes in this roster, not a single substitution all season long. This is the team that everyone expects to take it, right? And up against Gen G here, they haven't shown any differences in their roster either. We saw just a little bit of flexibility in the very beginning of the season. But I gotta say, I mean, this is going to be Gen G's best opportunity they're gonna have in a while to actually take an LCK title.
And I'm looking towards the bot lane, and I'm looking at BDD to be on the form that we saw him on in the match against T1. If he doesn't show the same level of dominance in laning, you don't keep down Showmaker. Canyon gets to do whatever he wants, and that's a surefire way to fall behind and not really get to play the game.
Now let's take a look at this mid matchup, guys, because look at the Syndra picks here. 12 for Showmaker, 18 for BDD. They're both of their most played champions, right? And this has been a control mage meta, but neither of these players have actually shown a ton of flexibility, but especially not Showmaker.
Yeah, Showmaker, though, has been playing a hell of a lot of Assassins in solo queue, so I'm hoping that something like that will happen. But here we are, the moment you've all been waiting for. It is draft time for Game 1 of our 2021 Spring LCK Final, and already it's what we were kind of expecting. This is what we were thinking about. The focus on Ruler on the bottom side of the map is already 2 of his champions have been taken away.
And I'm expecting to see a Senna or a Hackram ban come out as well, but I was wondering about what is Damwon Kia going to do, because they've been super diligent about banning Renekton and Fresh every single time.
Whoa,
but they completely throw that previous draft plan into the trash can and go for a completely different approach, which allows you to first pick the Udyr without the fear of the Olaf counter pick. And most importantly, don't give Ruler any of his 2 comfort picks.
Well, now you have the Thresh open here as well, though. So now you have to make a choice if you're Damwon Kia, and they have very consistently gone towards the Udyr first pick here. It gives you a lot of control over vision. It's also going to be a champion that allows Canyon to really control the mid lane with. He likes to roam there, he likes to look for picks there, and it is going to put the tempo into their favor early on.
Well, we'll see exactly what happens is, of course, the Nidalee Renekton is available, Aphelios Thresh also available, but Senatom Kench has been left up as well, so Damwon Kia can head towards that right now.
And I would not be surprised to see him go for that. I do think that the Aphelios will be able to consistently fight aggressive pressure and priority in that lane and able
Heimerdinger!
Okay, well, never mind that. And this is a brilliant move by Damwon Kia, because one of the risks of running into an Aphelios with Senna is that a wave clear is not necessarily as good. But if you combine it with Barrel's Heimerdinger, a lot of those problems goes away, and you can't hook if there's a turret in front of you.
No, you certainly cannot. And we're going to see the Graves come through as a response to the Udyr now. So a lot of range damage on the side of Gen G. But I feel like this Senna Heimerdinger is really going to throw a little bit of a curveball here to Gen G. It's difficult to lane into this, but how it scales later on to the game is going to be interesting to see as well. We see the Akali ban here. With Udyr, often we see a lot of players right now going towards the Zoe in mid lane because you have a lot of extra vision control. You're very safe in the mid lane with the Zoe pick there with the Udyr. So curious to see if Gen G decide to take that away now from Showmaker. It's one of his top picks as well, his second most played this season.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is the top lane, right? It's been completely ignored for this point in time outside of that Gnar ban that has been taken away by Gen G. Will it be just Beefcake's there towards the top side, and is the Cho'Gath going to be part of the problem?
And something that Gen G has done in that past draft is they saved the counter pick for Rascal, and then they still just pick a tank. It's just to make sure that Khan doesn't blind picks up or like doesn't get the counter pick, get something like a Jace into a Cyan, where you know that Khan is going to bully that lane. But you can't blind pick that, right? So by saving that top lane pick and picking something like a Syndra if it's not banned away, and Orianna here for BDD on R4, that means you can use your R5 for a very comfortable tank matchup, and if Khan goes for something aggressive, there it is!
Well, this could just be an indication that we're seeing Damwon Kia heading towards the Scion pick once again, but you don't really need that strong of a front line with this comp already. Heimerdinger is going to give you a lot of extra frontline power in a lot of these team fights. You have good range with the Senna already. You don't necessarily need to pick the Scion here, but it is a safe pick they could go with, and it's going to be BDD who gets the first Syndra here of this best of 5, and he had a great performance against T1. Let's see if we can see those Scour of the Weeks once again.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting because we might actually get the Zoe versus Syndra matchup that both of these players were talking about in the Trash Talk. As Scion, there we go. That's the blind pick. I think the Cho'Gath ban gave that one away. And now Damwon, what is their answer to the Syndra? Certainly a lot of interesting ones, but we're not expecting it. Victor is going to be the choice here by Showmaker.
And I quite like that. I think the Victor, even though it's not the most interesting of matchups.
Yep. Beefcake versus Beefcake. That's what we're getting here for game number 1. Gen G looking like a very Gen G draft, and Damwon Kia similar on their side. But if you have a look at these straight down the line, both of them, a lot of late game power. But where do we put it, gentlemen? Chronicler, do we think this is exactly what Gen G needed? Is it enough against Damwon Kia?
I think there is a lot of power here, but if BDD or Ruler, either of those doesn't get ahead, I'm afraid that in the long run, even with how strong their engage and pick potential is, you're gonna have issues actually being able to do damage consistently against these long-range carries coming through from the Victor and the Senna. Combined with the Heimerdinger makes it so much harder to actually get your Ophelos in a position where he's able to get through them.
I look at this and I think Damwon Kia has such a tough comp to break through, right? Like, even if you get that great Scour of the Week, who are you hitting? Who are you killing here? Even if you try to make the clutch plays, you try to look for the hook, you're going to have such a hard problem actually getting that to connect. Even the Call of the Forge God coming through from Ornn, it's just going to be so difficult. Sure, both of these teams scale well into the late game, but I feel like Damwon Kia's comp kind of plays itself, right? It's so easy to execute, and this is the best 5v5 front-to-back team fighting comp that we have in this league and potentially in the world, the defending world champions. I look at this draft and I think this is impossible to crack, even with what Gen G have put together.
I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with impossible to crack, because if you look at the 2v2 in terms of jungle power, like in the early levels, a Graves and a Syndra, if you hit an early scatter, if you find that play, if you set it up, you can actually demolish anyone on the side of Damwon Kia, right? You can actually set up these plays with life on the fresh. The hook into the scatter, into the kill is something we've seen them do again and again.
Well, we'll see exactly what happens here. Both of these teams going for a lot of scaling as we have a look. Gen G ready to get onto the Rift for game number 1 of this final. Life just getting ready, getting all of the audio things sorted out, as I think maybe we do have a slight delay moving into game 1. Of course, this is something that we are very used to, and I assume it's an audio delay because, of course, 75% of the time, that's precisely what it is. But you can see our refs getting to it ASAP to make sure we can get into our first grand final match.
Well, I think it's really interesting what you mentioned, Chronicler, earlier about, you know, the clutch potential that you have if you do hit the stun into the hook, right? Or if you're able to hit the hook into the stun. I think it can definitely work. It's just so difficult to pull that off, right? It's going to have to be the clutch factor we saw in that semifinals once again from these players.
Well, we'll just have to see how it's going to go. I think that we are almost getting ready to get through here. But you can see Live still having to explain a few of these things. I think that actually the fact that Senna and the Heimerdinger this time, I think a lot of people were expecting the Tahm Kench. I think that getting through might not necessarily be the greatest news to Gen G fans, just because they don't then get that straight up 2v2, which I think is like almost something that they would be relying on as far as just smashing a matchup.
The upside of this, though, is that Beryl will not have the impact that he normally does. Beryl, in my opinion, is scariest on things like Leona, on Alistair. When he gets to roam around the map, set up plays with the rest of his team, play off Showmaker's priority, play off Canyon, who loves to invade, loves to play aggressive and go for early objectives. And that is something that with the Heimerdinger you actually won't be able to do. So I'm looking at the strong early game that Gen G showed against in their series against D1, because there are definitely tools in this composition that allow you to get ahead early.
Yeah, there certainly are. I mean, there are ways to set up stuns and kills. If you see some roaming coming through from Life, for example, that is something that could give them an edge, right? And they could be able to put a little bit of kill pressure on the mid lane. But I'm worried that, you know, with the drafting style we're already seeing here from Gen G in Game 1, you're trying to play a scaling game into a team that is very happy to play late in almost every situation. They have won late game with drafts where they're behind early with a comp that is supposed to be strong in early game. And I feel like if we had sped up the tempo, if we played towards a faster style of Gen G, I would have liked that more going into a best of 5 like this. And already, Damwon Kia are changing the way this draft is being played, right? They're picking Heimerdinger, which feels weird, but we've seen it before from Barrel already this season. It's not like this is the first time this has happened. It's been seen a lot in scrims, right? It's very popular nowadays, and this isn't a huge curveball. It just feels like Damwon are trying to play standard late game, and that's scary.
Well, we'll see exactly how it's going to go as, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to get into game number 1 of the LCK Spring Final. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rift. Here we are for game number 1. Both of our teams choosing a bit of scaling as the flavor for our first game. And I just want to go into a bit of mentality, a little slight rant, just a little one, gentlemen. Because, of course, I think that having the onus on you to be proactive in a final that is so high pressure when emotions are running high, choose scaling. I think it is so intelligent. Gen G did it very, very well against T1 in their first game. And now both of these teams are going in that direction for this one. And I think from a psychological perspective, it's a good way to play. Because if you have pressure on you to make action, as well as the pressure on you of being in a final, it can compound.
Yeah, it certainly can. And this is a team that has struggled in best of 5s for Gen G. If you end up messing up the execution of this game, I mean, I feel like it's not only me who's feeling this. I mean, we've seen both coaches for both of these teams kind of say it feels like if Gen G wins it, it has to be a one-sided series. And you're putting a lot of pressure on these players who did perform in the T1 series, but this is a different beast. This is a grand finals for Gen G.
Yeah, and I actually think that bringing up the coaches is really interesting, right? Koma and Odin have been up against each other for many years, right? Like, of course, not last year because Koma took a year off and, you know, traveled the world just a little bit. But now he's back, and both of these guys certainly having a lot of experience against one another.
And it's also always something that gives extra depth, and we know a lot of these players are so experienced, right? And they've played with each other, they played against each other, and to then see them in the finals is really exciting. I think if I look at where the actual action, in my opinion, is supposed to happen early on, I want to see Clid try and play around BDD in the mid lane here. We know how easy it is for Syndra to get that early prio, and if Clid can use that to maybe put some pressure on Canyon to force a flash on Showmaker early, it opens up a lot of possibilities around that first dragon.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, you know, Canyon is not the type of player who likes to play bodyguard, right? He's not the type of player who likes to defensively gank when these sort of plays happen. So you can bet that Showmaker is going to be left on his own quite a bit here in the mid lane in a matchup where there is kill pressure with the ability to scatter the weak here for BDD. So I do agree. I think the mid lane is going to be the most interesting part of this early game by far.
Well, you can see already BDD with a bit of a shove towards that mid lane. As far as the jungle is going, of course, Udyr is going to have that clear advantage, and so he's going to be moving towards his red buff a little bit earlier than what Clid's going to be able to do, but I think it's after the first clear that things will get interesting when it comes to that jungle with that extra time that Canyon may have around the map to try and get something done potentially. As you can see, Ruler and Life spending some time underneath their turret because, of course, Senna Heimerdinger is revolting. We unfortunately didn't manage to make it work. However, Damwon Kia, let's see whether they can.
It's something that's so hard to deal with in terms of priority, right? Because the Heimerdinger turrets kind of solve one of the few issues that Senna does have, especially if you would combine it with something like a Tahm Kench, which is what traditionally is done. Because it makes it so much harder for you to actually shove in consistently, especially against an Aphelios. So, this is the man with the most solo kills. So I'm going to be, even though it's too beefy, boys, I'm going to be looking towards that top side. But I want to see Gen G find a way to actually deal with this, because if Ruler and Life are going to be stuck on the turret, a big part of what makes this roster so dangerous is, in my opinion, going to be fully neutralized.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what this draft comes through with, right? I mean, you're willing to give up the Thresh, but you have the Heimerdinger. You're going to have that lane priority. You know that Life isn't going to be able to roam when he's stuck under turret. They also got the Rift Scuttler on the bottom side of the map, so they have a lot of extra vision. So they can feel very safe actually pushing up this aggressively when they have that vision advantage on the bottom side of the map. So it feels like everything's kind of going according to plan here for Damwon.
Yeah, and also, like, if you remember, like, think about the hardest champions to gank in League of Legends. Which one's literally at the very top of that list? It is 100% Heimerdinger. You walk towards those turrets, and it is largely a death sentence. And unfortunately for Gen G, yes, they have the ability name, but they do not have the Heimerdinger. So it is certainly something that they're going to have to think about, and getting a Heimerdinger out of position is how you take him down. So in this lane, I think it might be something that Gen G just ignore and try to get advantages elsewhere.
The one upside, of course, for the Gen G comp is that even though I think in terms of range it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get stuff done, they can be fine.
Uh-oh, a little bit overextended.
Yeah, BDD in a bit of trouble. Gravity Field goes down. Not going to get the stun just yet, but the follow flash. BDD on the wrong side of the map as now he's running through these Raptors, and now it's a wild goose chase. He does have the blast cone as Canyon avoids it, but now, yeah, I mean, look, you are getting away slowly but surely. Is it going to be the execute? No, it is not, as not enough time had passed, and Showmaker picks up first blood in the end.
And this is the kind of, moment where you have to give respect to the Udyr pick, right? If you don't know where Canyon is, you can't be pushed up that far. I get the idea here is, I'm Syndra, I have better range, I have a lot better poke than Victor at this stage of the game. I can harass, I can get that extra pressure on. But when you know your jungler is away, if you push that far, you're taking a risk, and he gets punished for it big time here.
And for Gen G, one of the ways that in the T1 series they were able to actually make T1 suffer, right, and make T1 have problems is that their laning was super consistent, that they were not getting ganked, that they were able to find leads just purely through laning. It's not happening right now.
Yeah, and if you remember back to that series, BDD didn't die once until game 3.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very different start to how that series went. First Blood already is going to be against BDD, and see how Gen G are going to deal with it.
That's also going to be the first Drake, right? So that gives you Drake priority, Drake advantage here going into a mid game. And the Drakes that we have left, with this being an Ocean Drake to start things off, I mean, unless it ends up being a Cloud Soul, which,
it's not. So that's fine.
Oh, there you go. That's right. It did pop up there. So it's not a Cloud Soul, in fact. So both of these are actually massively important, right? So this advantage could be huge for Dom1K because they already have, in my opinion, the better and easier to execute team fighting comp for later on. They have this extra advantage in terms of getting to that very important final soul. And I mean, Flash not used for Showmaker either, by the way. So he's still very safe in the mid lane. This is only one kill, but it leads to so much more.
And it could lead to another kill, potentially, because Canyon walking on in there, of course, Showmaker can close the distance with his flash if he would like to, but also means that now Dom1K can play with a lot more pressure here in mid. And we mentioned that mid lane is going to be very, very important. I think that Gen G can't rely on bot pressure alone, and especially not in this game. We'll see how they are going to be able to bounce back from this situation, as it looks like it's being cleared. Trying to focus a little bit on farming things out, and Gen G now moving their bottom lane top in order to try and get some of that Herald priority.
This is a really early rotation though, and I think they will be able to get the shove. In terms of 1v2 potential, I personally give the edge to the Sion, although it is really hard into this matchup. Ruler, he's looking for some plates, but with Khan ulting in, I don't actually expect him to get a lot going. And if they pick up this early Herald and they're able to turn back the gold lead in their favor, it's looking a lot better for Gen G. They need the setup though.
They need that Herald, because if they don't, I mean, this is obviously a very big mismatch. You could see already Rascal struggling a lot more. The turrets are just going to naturally push this, and can even add a little bit of extra poke damage on the Rascal when he tries to trade back and even last hit these minions. He's losing CS, he's losing turret plates here, and so you have to get this Herald. They're rotating over for the Herald, but they need this.
Yeah, Beryl actually looking for a potential dive right now, as there's the On-Horn Ghost already flashing as Rascal turns it the other way, but this is not working out how he wanted, as Beryl's tanking the turret for the moment. Doesn't take that last shot, as Rascal looks to be okay, but the turret is disintegrating.
He's lost his flash here too, and look, I mean, they are trying to make this Herald play happen, but they were a little bit slow on it, a little bit of happy feeding there on the top side of the map.
I actually think that Gen G rotated too early, and because of that, yes, they will get the Herald, they might get plates, but you give up so much more. If you keep Ruler and Life in that lane for a little bit longer, you might be able to get the swap, get the Herald, without giving up this many plates, because now any gold that you get from the Herald has already been paid.
Yeah, and also guess who's coming up, right? Canyon is going to come and join this. Clear's not going to be able to just launch this for free. In fact, he's going to really struggle to get in there and actually drop this Herald, so you might not get those plates at all, at least not for a long time here. Canyon is absolutely ready to steal this away.
Yeah, you can see actually after Clid right now, as end of the line comes down, Canyon just going to ignore the Graves and take away the Shellfish. Now going to move up and looks to see whether he can defend Khan, who has not even lost 50% of his health bar. He should be absolutely fine, as now we're just looking to clear out this minion wave, and pressure has dissipated. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, first turret goes down.
Yeah, turret's already gone here, so yeah, you will get this charge off here, but you're not going to be able to really do anything else. The Herald's going to get cleared so quickly, and now you've got a jungle on this side of the map who's not accomplishing much. Meanwhile, look at the mid lane, you know? BDD's pushed out, and this is such a rough spot for Gen G to be in macro-wise.
And this is something that Damwon Kia, in my opinion, did already show in the first round of players against Hanwha Live. That's where they showed some weaknesses, but we know how good this team can be when they are up early on. And it's not just the mid-game macro, it's even the early game macro, right? The first play goes well. There's a 30 CS advantage for Canyon right now into Clid. And sure, Clid will always be relevant later in the game, but it's not a position that you really want to be in as Gen G, where you're already at a 2k gold deficit against a team that is so incredibly strong at closing out leads. The one upside is the Gen G comp is really good at playing defensive. With that Aphelios makes it really hard to force.
Yeah, the thing that I'm looking at is which one of these teams is okay the most when it comes to just scaling up, getting to a late game. Like on one side, you've got ornaments that come in that inflate the amount of stats that you have on your team. Aphelios, phenomenal at getting that consistent damage in the late game, depending on which guns he's got. But then you look over the side of Damwon Kia, you have literally the best tank in the game, which is Sion. And then you have Senna and Heimerdinger. Senna infinitely scales, right? Like, and will also get more and more range, more and more power as the game goes on. I don't know whether it's enough of a trade-off here for Gen G.
Yeah, I don't think so, you know, and that's kind of what I was saying in the parts of the draft, right, when we were looking at how this comp is going to scale up. And when they picked the Ornn pick, it's not a shock that Gen G would round off the draft with that, but unfortunately, just making these... Oh, hold that thought. Clid.
Yeah, Clid thought that it was his jungle, but Canyon's trying to convince him otherwise. His Ghost just going to get popped. BDD comes round the corner, and that's an overstep from the center.
And that might lead to a Drake coming in here. And as Gen G, you want to even up that Drain count. You have the hard engage available, because if you let Damwon Kia get ahead in Drakes, your late game becomes way more strenuous.
Yeah, you have to... I mean, if you're not ahead on Drakes when that soul runs around, we don't know which one it's going to be yet, but obviously both of the options are huge here. If you don't have that advantage, that means that Damwon Kia get to sit back and force every fight on their terms. Clid, 2 levels down.
Yeah, a little bit out of position here as BDD over to the side. Life is going to come in. Dawning Shadows flies through, but doesn't really do too much. As now Ruler is desperate to try and get this last little bit of turret before those turret plates do fall down.
That turret has been such an enemy of Gen G. There's been so many resources to try to finish it off. The fact that Ruler is here and not at this Drake means they cannot contest it. They're not getting anything else on the map. I mean, look at where Thresh and Graves are right now. They're rotating over looking for a pick, but I don't know if this is coming through. Turret's still up.
I'm pretty sure the turret will go down here. I think the problem with Gen G not going for the Drake was more the position that the rest of the map was in, because you do have to kind of hard force it if you want to try and get it before Ghost comes back, because the death times at this point in time are still so short, and that is a risk that you take. Gen G clearly going, holding the opinion that if they get into late game, they're still fine. The important thing is, thanks to the kill from BDD and the turret being picked up, the gold lead now negligible.
Yeah, no, it is completely tied up here. Only 400 in it, which means about nothing, especially when we factor in that both of these teams want to be playing for about that 30-minute mark to really hit their stride, as we are going to check this one out once again.
Just a really proactive play once again from BDD here. Over the wall, pops his ultimate here, and the Scout of the Week is actually what finishes him. He just knows he has that extra damage, comes in and punishes that overextension. And BDD, you know, a very mental player to get an extra early kill here this early on after that very unfortunate pick. You know, that we did see Canyon get, is a nice bounce back for him.
It also means that the pick potential that is available for Gen G remains way more relevant than it otherwise would be, as Canyon might get caught here.
Yep, Scout of the Week comes down. Clid not actually opting in for anything. Showmaker could have rotated up, as now speaking of rotations, we've got some teleports coming in here. Beryl and Ghost getting closed in on. There's a teleport to come through from Khan, as unfortunately Rascal, oh, he does find it actually in the end, but he gets blown up. And this is the problem. There were turrets down, and this was the setup that, of course, the Heimerdinger wanted, and Clid is just going to have to collaterally damage himself away.
Teleport disadvantage, you know, you come into this situation thinking you're actually up a member, you know, and as Gen G, but what objective are you really looking for here? You're just looking for a pick, and Damwon and Kia sniff it out so early, so easily, get those teleports through, you end up trading a kill in your advantage, and now you're going to get a turret.
It's also pre-item spike, right? We see Clid now pick up the shield bow. BDD doesn't actually have his first item finished yet either. So that's a couple of extra items that can really help you in a skirmish like that. You saw the damage that was done, even at the back end of that fight, thanks to the nice scatter. And if you have your items finished, if you're a little bit more cohesive there, if Rascal doesn't teleport quite that deep, you might be able to salvage that. And this is not really necessary from Gen G. You don't need to force like that.
And one thing that we haven't actually spoken about yet is you just saw Ruler teleport in towards the top side of the map. Do you guys have an opinion on the lack of a more defensive summoner spell and instead going for more of this proactive Mac movement style of summoner?
I think against Damwon Kia it makes a lot of sense because the team that sets this team apart above everything else, because I actually think Gen G in terms of like raw team fighting power can match them, is their macro, right? It's how they're able to trade early, how in the mid to late game they will sometimes give up things, but they will always get more in return. And we've seen them do this every single time. And a teleport helps you alleviate that, and you're not actually that at risk against this center Heimerdinger lane. You get pushed in, sure, but the kill threat is negligible.
I mean, it allows you to be more relevant on the map early as well. And, you know, we've seen so many times that Aphelios rotation to the top lane, so much damage here.
Yeah, Showmaker actually forced a flash from underneath this turret as Chaos Storm was traded, but Canyon looks to be taking Shirley pretty comfortably by
this is
himself.
not just a K-Ram we're watching here. This is a lot of pressure in mid to actually allow Canyon to try to take this away. Gen G sniff it out, though.
Yep, they rotate over. Control ward there, going to be cleared here by Clear to the best of his ability. All 5 members of both teams milling about in the river. BDD down to about half-life, in a bit of trouble as the train is going to park itself into the wall, but it does buy exactly the right amount of space for Damwon Kia to secure the Rift Herald.
This is Damwon Kia in a T, right? You push mid, you use a lot of resources, you use a Scion ult to cut them off, and you just are able to, by the skin of your teeth, pull a Rift Herald out of a hat here, and that's what Damwon Kia does so well. You take a small edge in the mid lane, and you turn it into such a huge advantage.
I do think that the double teleport or the double summoner usage there is something that may come to bite them. And here we see the double teleport, as pointed out, is a really big problem here. Rascal also, crucially, hasn't hit the levels where he gets the upgrade on his mythic, so he's not that insanely tanky on that we know we're going to see later in the game. And there you also see that scatter hits, sure, the collateral damage, it's nice, but they haven't hit their spikes yet. They haven't actually converted that gold, meaning that if you get kills there, all of a sudden that play flips around, right? And Gen G, they're very hungry here, but the gold lead still relatively even. I think this mountain fight is going to be super pivotal for both of these two teams.
And if Damwon Kia get this mountain Drake, I mean, that almost locks up every single team fight for the rest of the game. They're always going to have the ability to take it on their terms, right? They won't ever have to force a fight. They'll be willing to give Gen G the opportunity to take just one mountain Drake instead of the soul, right? So this is really important for Gen G to take that momentum away now. But look at where everyone is positioned on the map here for Damwon Kia. They're already grouped up. They already have vision advantage. Rascal's cut off. Like, this seems almost untakeable for Gen G right now.
Yeah, he's off towards the side. Rascal is going to try and get himself back in. Bella's Breath does deny some of the CC as Clit and BDD in position. BDD you can see charging up for that potential ultimate, but the Herald is used, right? This is straight out of a textbook from Damwon Kia, trying to get all of that control as Canyon is going to get collateral damage to the face, but they have a center. They have all of the extra regen on their side, and Canyon, he will be back up to health in pretty short time as these Piercing Darknesses start to come in. But Gen G, they have position. There's the Moonlight Vigil. Gravitum's going to help out as well. Ornhorn gets a triple knockup as the Dawning Shadow lands on Tarul, and now Damwon Kia trying to get back into this team fight. Canyon out of it already. The Scion is dead, down to zombie mode, and Clid secures the Dragon. Gen G have extraordinarily low health bars. Damwon Kia cannot find it though. They cannot find the chase, and they'll be denied the Drake and denied a kill.
And ladies and gentlemen, I give you Damwon Kia. The fight is perfect for Gen G. I mean, the opening of that fight is about as good as you can ask for. It's about as the best engage you could ever get, and yet still Damwon Kia end up trading it back, end up tying up the fight, and got control over the Drake pit. Sure, they did not get the Drake, and that's massive. Gen G do have that extra buffer now, but if you see a fight start off this well for Gen G and it still ends up even, you got to be really worried about how it's going to go later on.
That's the ruler difference, baby. He finds the insane ultimate, because 2 ultimates were already used, right? They blow everything trying to kill Clid. But then this setup is beautiful, and this is what I'm looking forward to see what in these late game teamfights is going to happen. Both Khan and Rascal are trying to do the same thing, but the Aphelios is insane at shredding down tanks, even this early on, doesn't even have his Lord Dominic's yet. And then the secure from Clid, because Canyon is so low, he can't quite walk up as much as he usually would, and that means that this game is going to remain close, at least till the next Drake fight.
Yeah, I actually think that is extraordinarily pivotal for keeping Gen G in this game. As we can see, gold lead, gigantic for the Aphelios, but this is, of course, the very confusing fasting center situation, so we're going to ignore that. Everywhere else, extraordinarily close, right?
Yeah.
Khan has a slight advantage on the top side, but otherwise, nothing to write home about.
I think the Heimerdinger pick was just so perfect because it slows down a lot of what Aphelios can do in lane. He usually, you know, is often getting more turret plates than he's able to get. I think that's part of why you see the teleport here as well, so they get a fast track to the lane swap. But unfortunately, that turret in the top side was traded, and they weren't able to take it out until so long into the game. The Aphelios isn't as online as he would like to be at this stage in the game. If he does have that Lord Dominik's regard a little bit faster in this game, maybe the next Drake fight can actually be one that Gen G could hope to take. But at this stage in time, even with that perfect engage from Rascal after the Moonlight Vigil comes out, Damwon Kia are able to turn around. And I'm worried about how well Gen G can actually fight these scrappy fights, even with a good engage. What happens when the engage is bad? What happens when you actually have Khan flanking and somebody gets caught? I mean, how do you win those fights? That's what I'm most concerned about here.
I actually think that the primary engage for Damwon Kia is not nearly as consistent because Sion's engage, and we've seen this a couple of times happen already, is incredibly telegraphed, right? I think Sion generally is the strongest when he's a secondary initiator, when he has something like an Alistar that can just bull rush in and then follow up with the lockdown. Whereas obviously on yes, ornaments are insane, but like the fact that Call of the Forge God is long range, non-committal, insane engage that can just find backlines basically guaranteed, and it segues so well into a Scatter the Weak, right, is I think something that will keep Gen G relevant throughout the entirety of this game, even with the raised advantage.
Yeah, the thing that I want to mention, though, is the fact that I don't think Damwon Kia ever really want to engage. They have a Heimerdinger composition. What they're trying to do is establish vision control around their objectives that they're looking for, and then make Gen G come to them. And then if Gen G do, then they have to walk into center Heimerdinger, which is extraordinarily difficult to deal with. I think so much of this hinges on who's going to have that vision control.
And that's where the Udyr comes into play, right? Because the Udyr is so great at clearing vision. I mean, speak of the devil, he's going in right now and taking a lot of this away. He's getting a lot of extra information as they posture around this Baron pit. And Baron is up, and it's something that can be rushed down by Damwon Kia. They don't have an insane rush speed on it just yet, but it is pretty quick with the Heimer here. So Gen G have to respect this lack of vision. While they have this vision control, they're allowed to give Showmaker a turret. Why not? Because there's no way that anyone can catch him off guard here when you have this much vision control. The last Drake fight that Gen G took, they actually were able to wrestle positional advantage away. If vision does go to Damwon Kia and they actually have that set up first on some of these objective fights, that's when I'm worried, because that's when you're going to struggle to get value out of Rascal's ult.
And what I love is that Ruler went for the rapid fire cannon here, because one of the issues that he will have as the Aphelios is range. Aphelios is really strong when people are trying to engage into him, but against a Senna, a Heimerdinger, a Victor, that's not going to happen nearly as much. Sure, it's nice to pump up those damage numbers and attack Khan, right? You always feel good about that afterwards, but you actually want to win the game, and I think that the rapid fire cannon provides you with a little bit more, especially as we saw, if you get a Gravitum auto off, if you get the root on someone, you can turn that into a really aggressive play. I do want him to get Lord Dominik's next, because Khan is getting tankier and tankier, and eventually it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you are able to catch somebody out of position with the Ornhorn, or you're able to get a hook, right, that miracle hook that's not supposed to happen, that's when the rapid fire cannon is really going to be a huge asset to you, because you can actually get that extra hit off, you can get that extra damage off, either force a flash, force somebody out of the team fight. As we do have 15 seconds to this next Drake, and look at where the position is. This is what I'm talking about. Damwon Kia is set up this time. How do you crack this as Gen G? It's going to be so difficult. Damwon Kia have control of the vision here if they clear this ward. I mean, how do you walk into this?
Yep, Rascal trying to face check. It's the only one that really can here on the Gen G side. You can see Damwon Kia, though, they lose control of the mid lane. They do now have to move away from the dragon, but the vision is established. You just need to make sure. You can see Beryl cheating off towards the bottom side, making sure that he can get there, get his positional situation sorted, as Heimerdinger does love to do, but Clid trying to come through and clear. You can see how dangerous it is, though, for Gen G to try and crack this one open. Scatter the Weak now on cooldown. Canyon thinking about this as an opportunity. Down to about half health, and his health bar is actually very important. Ruler still holding onto his ult. Ultimates everywhere for both of these teams right now, as Khan looks for the flanking option. Rascal a lot lower than he'd otherwise want to be to actually frontline in this potential team fight.
They have to dodge every single shot coming through from Beryl as well, so the pacing of this is so slow, but the chip war is being won by Damwon Kia. Here comes Khan!
Yeah, we'll see whether Khan can actually get into position as he avoids a lot of these skill shots. Ruler out of the way of the Scion. He's got the close range weapons as here comes the call of the Forge Guard. Finds a knockup, but it's only onto Khan as Dawning Shadow gets all of those big old shields onto Damwon Kia. Gen G still jostling right now, but the fight hasn't actually started. and now there's no call of the Forge God to try and get that advantage. Stun lands onto the Heimerdinger, but immediately barrels back up to full health. That's going to be soul point now for Damwon Kia.
And they can just walk away. They don't have to fight this. They absolutely do not need to. They get out of here. This is the war of attrition. It feels like you are going to struggle to lose as Gen.G every time.
Big old rockets coming through there from Beryl.
Really nice sidestep, and here you see the value of the Senna as well, right? Whereas it's not as insane as something like a Seraphine, the combination of the range advantage, which in of itself is manageable, but combined with the Senna healing, you can just consistently get those health bars up to full, and then once that Call of the Forge God is used, you have a problem!
Oh no, Ruler's in ruler position, and he's caught immediately out! How many times has he died at exactly this point of the map?
It's happened so many times in really high, stressful, important situations, right? In best of fives, you get caught like this, you lose a Baron! And at least they're going to lose control of the vision here, and this is the same problem that they're going to have Gen.G on this objective fight as they were on the last, is that in those war of attrition moments, the Senna healing is going to add up.
The good thing here, though, is that Ruler actually didn't use his flash, which sounds weird, but with everyone else up on Gen.G, even with their insane damage towards Baron, Damwon Kia can't actually go for it, meaning that for a subsequent fight, which is what's really going to matter, because in 4 minutes it's going to be the Drake, Baron is just relevant from any point onwards, the moment that there's no teleport available and someone in Gen.G sideline goes too deep. And if Gen.G don't hit those spikes and they don't find the engage, we see what happens here.
Yeah, let's have a look at it one more time. Well, it was exactly like you said, a war of attrition, but one team has a healing ability.
Yeah, one team has a healing ability. Once the Call of the Forge God comes out here, you know, as Damwon Kia, that you actually have freedom to move forward, right? And this is when you see Gen.G, unfortunately, unable to walk any farther forward because they knew they had Call of the Forge God if they wanted to actually commit to the fight. But once it's gone, you kind of have to sit back and take a back seat here. There's just no one to stop the Drake. And you can see at this point, like, yes, they could try to trade forward here because Damwon Kia did go extremely far forward onto the Drake, but if you try to chase, it's just never a race you're going to win. And then this is Ruler, unfortunately, getting caught here, farming, didn't have vision, and that's the end of that. They don't get the Baron, and there was that very important ward, actually, that just now got cleared for Gen.G, so they knew this. They weren't, you know, rushing over there to deny it.
Well, 5 members of Gen.G now grouped up in this mid lane. Sion splitting on the bottom side, teleport at the ready. Damwon Kia probably aware that Gen.G has more friends in here than are currently on Vision, and are going to be playing very respectfully. But a lot of pings out here from Damwon Kia. They're like, why aren't they defending this turret? As Khan is just getting to work.
Will make his way over now, and of course nothing interesting happens in the top lane matchup.
Nope.
Unfortunately, it is a good old classic wet noodle fight. Rascal has it level 13 though, so he's gonna, or level 14 ready, so he's gonna start doling out the upgrades. And once the 3 item spikes are hit on Ruler and Klid, I think these fights are gonna look a lot more contentious because you need to be much more respectful of the burst and the raw damage that comes out as Damwon Kia. However, as pointed out already, with Mountain Drake and Soul Point being secured now by Damwon Kia, you can never ever give that up. And it means that it's so much easier. They can just trade the Baron and be completely fine.
Yeah, and it's also so telegraphed, right? Like, Damwon Kia, they can move either to a Baron or a Drake. Both of those options are extraordinarily good for them. However, Gen.G, the only thing that is going to be super great for them to pick up at this point, in time, is the Baron. That's going to give them all of their advantages, whereas just one Mountain Drake, that's valuable. That's one in a line that they're going to have to keep on grabbing and keep denying from Damwon Kia. And Damwon Kia with a macro advantage? I mean, they're terrifying when they don't have a macro advantage.
Exactly, and you know, right now this is going to be a fight over vision. It's going to be a fight over positioning. Now, Damwon Kia have to take that fight on 2 fronts because they don't want to trade objectives. They want to have everything, right? They want to have their cake and eat it. And they're in a position in this game where I think they should absolutely look to deny Gen.G from any opportunity to try to trade. The problem is the composition needs a hard setup, right? And it's hard to set up in 2 places at once. So they need to clear every single ward and control these choke points. And where they are right now is the timer ticks down. They wish it was actually a little bit further ahead of where it is because the time here allows Gen.G to teleport in, allows them to actually try to rotate over towards the Baron and pull Damwon Kia apart.
Yep, and now the item spike has been hit. Lord Dominic's Regard coming through for Ruler. This next fight, he's going to do a lot more damage front to back than he otherwise would. Canyon and Khan do need to be a little bit more frightened. But I think that setup conversation that we've had is still so important. Khan spotted on Vision. Ruler looking to move on over as Canyon finds BDD out of position. He flashes, but he can't make it towards the Lantern. And now the box is set up, but it's just not going to be good enough. Now Rascal, he's also out of position. Klid's at half health. Ruler is running for the hills, and Gen.G are falling falling apart.
Oh, this is definitely going to be basically game. I mean, at this stage, you get all the objectives, right? A huge pick onto BDD. He's out of position, but also Khan was ready there to cut the rest of the team in half. Even if you don't get that BDD pick, even if he somehow miraculously gets away, that was always going to be Damwon Kia's advantage.
And it is Damwon Kia making such good use of the pressure that they have, knowing that when push comes to shove, they can give up this objective, right? Like, it's not something that they 100% need to go for, and the attempt of Gen G to collapse onto Khan is always something that is going to take so much time, and now it's a miracle steal for Klid. All the game is basically
the
over.
grenade lands! He takes the lantern. Klid is going to make it out, but I mean, that's where the good news ends as BDD comes on over. He's spotted out on vision, and now all we need is Heimerdinger to move into that pit, and that Baron basically just gets blinked at and it dies. He's not even going to get there. Doesn't need to. And that is both Mountain Soul and the Baron on our defending world champions as Damwon Kia look to try and close the door on game one.
And if you were trying to set up for advantages, right, for objectives, if you had to be the first one there, as we're going to watch this once again, this is BDD just splitting off with the rest of the group. Canyon catches, I mean, this is what happens with Udyr. There's no way out. You're not getting out of here, never, no matter what. And Khan is peeling so well for the rest of Gen G, so they can't come in and save him. There's no way to make a trade here. But yeah, if you're talking about controlling pits now with all the Baron buff that's going to come through, with all the minions, the wave control you're going to have, like, how do you ever get to the objective first? How do you ever take this Elder Drake? I mean, it's going to be basically a 1 in a million chance.
And the real problem with the composition of Gen G is that they don't fight well in choke points, or rather, Damwon Kia's comp in choke points is unplayable, right? Because you have a Victor that is doing AoE damage, you have a Baron Heimerdinger that is just throwing rockets, throwing grenades. You can't get through Khan, you can't get through Canyon. They need the open space, and that's the fight we saw earlier, when they can actually pull apart, right? When they can fight it straight up front to back without everyone being one person is at Wolves, one person is in the middle of the lane. They're good, but I think at this point, after that mistake, you need the most insane front-to-back team fight, and even then, I don't think Damwon Kia are going to give you the opportunity. They have a Mountain Soul, it's so much harder to get that done.
Yeah, and they have a Scion in the front as well, and I don't want to be that guy, you know, that talks about mistakes and things like that, but life has just been that little bit too late on so many pivotal lanterns in this game so far, as once again BDD going to get stunned up, but now Rascal's there, gets the flash out of Showmaker. Ghost is going to get knocked up, but Khan has found a flank. Ruler is exploding, but he's still alive for now. Dawning Shadow just narrowly avoided, but Khan is just unkillable right now on this Scion. Now he finds himself a turret. He's got Gargoyle Stone Plate. Ain't no way he's dying. He's going to flash to get himself out of the way. His Unleashed Power still needs to be respected, but with no Ruler, it's going to be so difficult for Gen G to defend the base, and it looks like it's going to get cracked at this push.
Yeah, this is going to be the push to take the inhibitor, maybe even take the game. With no Ruler here, you just don't have the damage to challenge this anymore.
So scary.
I mean, Khan basically just 1v5 that team fight. I mean, just that tanky.
I'm looking back to that Trash Talk video, gentlemen, where Khan was like, sit down, young men.
Time to learn something.
Yeah, and he's certainly doing it here today. Just no fear, standing in the front line, punishing his former teammates and friends on Gen G.
And it's on Sign as well, right? Like, they call him a Sign 1 trick, I guess, so what? I don't care. Like, I might be a Sign 1 trick, but I'm still crushing your team. And that's what's happening here. And I'm very happy to see the return of Damwon Kia actually play, control, and play the early game well. Because I stand by my criticism in the Hanwha Live series where they disrespected things like the Silas, the Volibear. But the team that we're seeing here is much more reminiscent of the team that won Worlds, that didn't have an early game gap that they kind of had to go through, which we've seen this split. It's just been from start to finish, and we see the inability of some of these champions being a problem.
And look at Ruler. He's all by himself here, right? And no one knows where Khan is. He catches him at the back. Barrel's there to actually spike the volleyball, right? Like, it's so easy. Super easy setup. And this is a long-range play from Khan. And what do you do as Gen G? You have to defend. You can't just sit back and take it. So you step forward.
And the problem is that with this composition, Aphelios should be way safe. Aphelios should be fine, honestly. Like, you have a Fresh for this reason. The moment you hear that noise, Life should be there. Should be able to actually protect Ruler, because one Sign is actually on top. If he ever hits the knock-up, it's just over. Like, that's the end of it. Fresh needs to be there.
Well, Damwon Kia, they still need to win the game. Currently, they have a 7,000 gold lead. All of their ducks are in a row. 2 inhibitors down. And now it's Elder Drake that's going to be on the menu next when it comes to these neutral objectives. If they get that, I feel like that is the final nail in the coffin that is already getting lowered into the ground, is what it kind of feels like. And Damwon Kia, they're not even wanting to waste that time. 1.5 minutes they'd have to wait, but there is a very juicy inhibitor turret here that Ghost is just chipping away at pretty comfortably here.
Good Khan on the flank as well. He catches
4 million health, gentlemen. He's just so big on this Scion.
I mean, this is basically a game you can't lose as Damwon Kia. You could just slowly push this forward, and if anything goes wrong, you just walk away and take Elder, but you don't even have to do that. You've got a third inhibitor down now.
And a lot of the potential that we talked about for Gen G is in the burst, but burst is irrelevant. They have a Mountain Drake, or Mountain Soul Rider with 2 Drakes. Like, you're not bursting through anyone here.
Yeah, I think they might be able to get through Scion's Soul Furnace.
No, and then maybe Stone Blade.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh no, not Stone Blade.
If you're
not giving him that.
come on, give them a little credit, okay? That's a free item, fella. He can get through the Stone Blade shield.
All right,
Damwon Kia trying to win this game with minions right now, and okay, you get an ult.
Yeah, but that is going to be a stopwatch. Rascal not going to be able to find too much joy there. Beryl going to get healed back up as Rascal has to Searing charge his way out. Life not going to be so lucky as Ghost grabs that first kill. Collateral damage to try and create distance there. But Clit as Canyon gets stunned up, it doesn't care at all. Nexus turret 1, 2 down. Nexus now the focus for Damwon Kia as they make a statement in game number 1 in this spring final. Gen G relegated to their fountain. Damwon Kia often want to have a bit of fun at this stage, but it looks like the Nexus is just going to get taken down, and they'll move us straight to game number 2.
Very clean game here from Damwon Kia. Both teams going for a scaling composition, but the execution for Damwon Kia was just better. They were fortunate they were able to get that Mountain Soul. They had a Drake advantage leading into some of those fights, and Gen G fell apart in the later game. Ruler getting caught several times, BDD as well. You're starting to get desperate. The walls are closing in, the map is closing in, and Damwon Kia taking this first game means the momentum is in their favor. And like I said, I don't imagine Gen G can win this series if they don't win game 1. They've already lost it. This is going to be a very uphill battle.
And what we saw was the continuous punish of the immobility of a lot of the carries from Gen G, and normally the Fresh kind of alleviates that with the Lantern, with the Flay, with the box, but it felt like Life was never where he needed to be. If Canyon was running a BDD, sure there was a Lantern after BDD died. Sure there was a box or a Flay after Ruler got hit, right? And you can't afford that. You need to protect those carries consistently.
Yeah, Life was just a little bit behind the play throughout a lot of those moments. You saw that the Lantern was there, but unfortunately the screen of the player is trying to protect was grey at that point in time, right? So Ruler gets caught out standing up in the lane. He should be able to do that with a Thresh, but wasn't actually able to. Damwon a little bit too quick on that trigger finger, but this is what we've come to expect from this team. We need more from Gen G if they are going to take it to our world champions and defending LCK champions.
I want to see more aggressive early game drafting. I feel like if you're going to beat Damwon Kia, you can't just try to beat them in the late game and outscale them. I just don't think that's going to work. So many teams have tried. We've seen it all year long. Teams try to say, well, we're just going to scale better. We're going to play the late game better. No one is beating this team in 5v5 team fights. And if you're going to get caught, you're definitely not going to beat them that way. I think we have to see a change in draft here for Gen G.
I think it's so dangerous though because Gen G are so good at late game as well.
I think you can make the late game work, but you need a comp that can actually play evenly on range, because that was the pivotal issue here, I think. I think that in terms of like raw team fighting power, you were fine late, but even with a tanky Ornn, like you were getting to half HP on half your carries by the time the fight had started, right? Because you got outranged on basically the two most important of mid and AD carry, and then you had a Heimerdinger as well, which was a beautiful move coming out from Damwon Kia. So I want to see Gen G with a comp that can actually outrange and isn't need to forced rather to pull the trigger that aggressively.
I agree, but let's bring up the post-game graphic, and I kind of wish that this had healing, because that would illustrate one of the huge problems for Gen G, because they couldn't stand that war of attrition when they were jostling for position. That rhyme was unintentional, but Ghost was just so pivotal. But Beryl, I think, takes it for me when it comes to the complete MVP for this game.
I mean, he did so much, and Heimerdinger is so easy to actually pull off that much damage on when you're actually fighting around objectives, right? If you're actually hunkering down and taking these team fights on your terms. And unfortunately, Gen G, with an Udyr pick on the other side, they're always going to be taking vision away. You can see how many times Clit is trying to yoink one more ward out, but he's like, oh, I can't even get the last shot because I'm going to die, right? I'm going to get caught. It's so difficult.
Yeah, and it's really, really rough. But I want to talk about pivots just before we do head towards a break. What does the focus need to be, Chronicler, if you need to get rid of one key pick? I think I have one in my mind, but what is it?
I mean, maybe you ban Heimerdinger, right? It feels crazy. But I think that more so as a whole plan for the draft going into the next one, I think the Jinx and the Kalista ban was super good from Damwon Kia. Big fan of that. And I want to see Gen G. I'm fine with them drafting for late game, but I want to see a late game comp that can actually stand up to what Damwon Kia is throwing. The problem is they're so diverse. like, it feels like the rabbit hat never ends with Barrel, and that's a big problem. May you bend the Senna just to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I actually think that the center is extraordinarily important because I think neutralizing a bottom lane, it doesn't really matter what happens to the center in the laning phase, right? She just remains center, continues to just support the rest of her teammates and nullifies what is a huge point of power for Gen G. I want a straight up 2v2 if we expect Gen G to win.
I want jungle control for the top side. I want to play around Rascal. Actually, I'm not feeling like the bot lane for Gen G right now. I want to see some Renekton, some Camille, some sort of top lane control. I want to actually use that jungle pressure, get it ahead early. It's so difficult against Khan, right? Especially on the Scion. But I think that's where Gen G might have to find their strengths here in this series.
Well, we'll see exactly what is going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to take a short break. When we get back, the analyst desk and game number 2.
야, 오는 거. 자, 주식 하나 씹을게. 공한테 그거 끊어주세요.
앞에 거쳐.
네, 정확했어.
쓰레쉬.
포타쳐. 끝내자. 탁. 힘들어. 앞에 공.
야, 죽이자 이제.
Listen, man. 대부분의 인간들은 부실 골프에서 롤생을 마감한다. 하지만 이들 중 갓난아기 응애 시절에도 자신의 전멸 위치만은 반드시 기억하는 롤 DNA를 타고난 자들이 챌린저에 오르며 괴물들 사이에서도 적으로 만나면 닿지마는 상대로 악명이 잦아해질 때쯤 그제야 LCK의 문을 두드려 볼 수 있다. 그렇다면 이 빡센 리그의 결승전에 오른 두 팀은 대체 무엇이란 말인가? 이것들을 사람이라 부를 수 있을지 의문이 드는 부분이다. 그럼 이 두 팀 중 담원을 알아보자. 전 세계 다양한 국가와 인종 상관없이 공평하게 두드려 패가며 2020 롤드컵을 우승한 현재 실질적인 롤 일장으로 그들이 경기장에 등장할 때면 삼천 초목도 숨을 멈추고 상대편 선수들은 공포에 찔려 캐스터 내치 마냥 4분의 4박자로 이빨을 부딪혔다. 아니나 다를까 올해도 파멸적인 행보를 보여주는데 그 주역엔 5명의 괴물들이 있다. 탑라인 칸. 올해도 95년생 27살로 반오심이 넘는 나이는 프로게이머계에선 거진 장로 드래곤 취급을 받지만 현역들 두드려 패는 것을 보면 역시 나이는 숫자에 불과한 것을 몸소 깨닫게 만들어준다. 또한 화려한 비주얼의 소유자로 얼굴만 믿고 게임 대충 한다는 설이 있지만 상대 선수를 요리 초보가 만든 빈대떡 마냥 처참하게 박살내는 것을 보면 그의 재능은 실로 경이로운 수준임을 짐작할 수 있다. 정글 가디언. 그의 창적 종류는 군필이 아님에도 군필임을 의심케 할 정도의 오지는 정확도를 보인다. 우리가 던질 땐 한없이 약하던 이쑤시개가 그의 손에 들어오는 순간 탱크들 뱃살 꿰뚫는 죽창으로 변모하는 모습은 협공 유저들의 가슴을 울리기에 충분하다. 그레이브스는 어떠한가? 그의 안정적인 성장을 초반에 억제하지 못한다면 후엔 평타 한 방 맞고 정신 차려보니 우물상점 아저씨가 반겨주는 신선한 경험을 맛볼 수 있을 것이다.
안녕하세요.
up here to mine. Yeah.
midline 샤오메이커 리얼 말도 안 되는 챔프폭의 소유자로 그냥 미드챔처럼 생겼으면 전부 찍먹해보는데 특히 신드라를 기용할 때 캐리력이 폭발하며 그가 집어던지는 포도알은 빗나가는 법이었다. 이미 포도알을 너무 많이 쳐맞아 살려달라고 비는 적인 면상에 거리낌 없이 포도알을 투포한 마냥 박아버리는 잔혹함은 그가 담원의 거봉 포도알 살인마는 사실을 다시 한번 상기시켜준다. 가히 최고의 미드라이너라 칭할 만하지만 대한민국 섹시 디바 선미의 관심을 독차지한다는 점에서 협공 유저들은 그를 사상 최악의 미드라이너라 부른다. One Deal Ghost 원딜의 덕목 중 하나인 킬 주워 먹기를 무자비하게 실행해버리는 선수이다. 자다가도 킬 냄새를 맡으면 빛과 유사한 속도로 마우스에 손이 가는 진또배기 원딜로 서폿이 밥상을 차려주기도 전에 햇반 먼저 돌려버리는 오지는 식탐의 원딜이다. 만약 그를 잡으려 한다면 시시기를 퍼붓고 탱탱한 탱커를 앞에 세우는 것이 좋다. 물론 그렇다 해도 잡을 수 있을지는 미지수지만 다쿠 베리오 LCK의 대표 덕후다. 잠시 영상 하나 먼저 시청하지.
브리콘의 갸루 갤러리 글렌 파이팅!
놀랍게도 작년 서머 스플릿 우승 소감 인터뷰다. 이 정도면 거진 모바일 게임에 현질하기 위해 대회 우승을 하는 것이 아닐까 의심이 들 정도의 찐 덕후로서 그의 환상적인 서포팅과 날카로운 킬각들은 대회 상금으로 현질할 생각에 기쁜 나머지 뿜어져 나온 아드레날린에 의한 결과로 받아들일 수 있다. 베리가 만라인전을 펼칠 선수에게 꿀팁 하나 알려주자면 경기 시작 전 같은 모바일 게임의 팬이란 것을 어필해준다면 그래도 조금 온화한 라인전을 이어나갈 수 있을 것이다. 이번 LCK 우승은 누가 할까란 주제로 펼친 친구와의 스피치 배틀이 전재산 내기까지 번져 그대의 지갑이 털려버릴 위기라면 나는 자신있게 담원을 추천하지. 리그 오브 레게노 챔피언십 코리아 봄 결승전 나레이션을 맡은 박플레이였다. 각자 좋아하는 조류 한 마리씩 시켜놓고 재밌게 시청하도록. 그럼 이만.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LCK Global Analyst Desk here for the Spring Finals of 2021. My name is Valdez, and I am joined by Jisun once again here on the Analyst Desk, and we are joined by a very special guest, Fred Brion's jungler, Umpty. How are you doing today, man?
Hello, Valdez. Hello, SK Global viewers. Glad to be part of the finals as an analyst. I will do my best in here. Thank you.
Awesome. Great to have you.
Have another special guest joining us remotely. It's going to be Ripbird. Hello, Ripbird.
Hi.
Hello. It's great to say to the LCK fans, it's been a long time. Yeah, I will do my best as well.
Yeah, awesome to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us. And this first game, just getting straight into it. I mean, it was a really tense game. I feel it felt at either moment it could have gone back or forth, but Damwon Kia was able to take a very decisive win. And I guess we just have to start with the pick ban, right? Umpty, I know you had some strong words about the pick ban when we did take a look at it. Anything you want to go over specifically looking at this one?
Yeah, because the important champions are Aphelios Reyes of bot and even Damwon Senna Heimerdinger. It was the important scene of the ban page. And I think Genji just prepared for the line swap too. So they get the Aphelios Reyes in faster in 1-2 picks. But Damwon was so have confident because Ghost is very good at Senna. So they get the Senna faster pick and they got the good results from Damwon. That's the important champions in this time.
Great analysis. And what about you, Ripper? What's your take on the draft in game number 1?
It feels like Damwon Gia prepared really well. Like they are sniping Benz, Kalista, and Jinx to the ruler. And then it feels like just take the Udyr, and then they knew that they're gonna take the Thresh and Aphelios together, and then they are preparing Senna and Heimerdinger as well. It's like the natural flow, you know? I knew it, you know, this kind of flow. And then it's going to 4-5. They are giving them to really comfortable pick, which is like Syndra and Oren, but it doesn't really matter. They got Sion and Victor as well, right? So first game feels like it's really good scouting games for each other, and then Damon won the game.
Yeah, very true. And it was pretty one-sided at the end of the game. But first, we need to kind of see how we did get there, of course. We're going to take a look at the first clip, and this was something we were all talking about while the game was going on, the lane swap that we did have here early on in the game at about 7 minutes. So what was your take on this, Umti?
Okay, this time Genji prepared for the line swap because the Senna is the very most strong liner. So they just line swap and get the Rift Herald to push the top tower. But there was a problem because they get the Rift Herald, but they didn't push the top tower so fast. So the jungle CS is going too much. Like just Canyon is 100 CS and Clid is CS for 70 CS. That was a big, just making hard to Genji. So that's the important point, I think.
Yeah, that's very true, and it ended up being a bit of a problem there for sure. Reaper, did you have any other thoughts about this first clip with the lane swap?
Yeah, they did lane swap for the getting Lift Herald and then take the top turret. And then original plan is probably going to the Dragon. So seems like they are prepared all the objective in this game. But one of the big things about this game at this moment is actually Damon did this turret very well, so that plans are get delayed. That's the reason early game Damon was a little better in this series.
Yeah, and Damon did kind of run away with that lead in the early game. There were some picks here and there, but it ended up being, by the end of it, a relatively close game in the mid game. And we do have a second clip prepared with the fight that did happen in the mid lane where BDD did kind of get caught out. So if we can roll that as well. It was very tense up until this moment, Umti.
Yeah, I think Genji was so nervous because I think Genji have the just position like so passively. So Damon just killed the BDD. So I think that was just a good play from Damon. Just Genji was just nervous. That was just the point, and Damon just do well in that point, I think. Yeah.
Reaper, did you have any thoughts on the second clip or just the overall state of the game at that point?
Yeah, I agreed with the Umti. Game was really close, but the thing is, Damon was using the map widely than Genji. Genji was stuck in the mid lane, like small spot, and then Damon just using the map, like all the map in the world, and then they are just smashing it.
Yeah,
that's what I saw.
I guess the mental state was actually reflected in the positions of the players. But while we were watching this game, actually Umti mentioned about the Dragon Soul. We thought Sion together with Mountain Soul is super strong, but you actually told us that professional players actually doesn't really prioritize Mountain Soul that much. It's actually the fourth one on the list. So could you kind of break it down for us about the Dragon Souls and their priorities?
You're saying the reason, right? The reason is too many situations in League of Legends. So, but the water dragon, right? Ocean dragon. Yeah, Ocean Drake and fire, the Infernal Break is always good. Yeah, always good. But the Cloud and Mountain Drake is just have a situation to be good or just normally. So I just said that Mountain Drake is not very important for professional players that they are saying, but professional players fight at Mountain Drake because the next Drake is Elder Drake.
Yeah, and that ends up being the scariest Drake of all. As
everyone is afraid about it. So nervous about it.
Yeah, and you know, Damon was able to accelerate those Drakes into eventually having that Elder spawn. And Reaper, did you have any other thoughts about the Drakes and kind of the priority between some of the souls and all the differences?
Yeah, I agreed with the Umti. I have a bad connection right now. I hope whatever I say, I can send you. But yeah, I agree. Basically, I agreed with Umti.
Okay, well, in that case, you know, we kind of got our priorities straight, and I guess that all works out. But thank you guys once again for joining us on the Analyst Desk. We are going to be back after, of course, games 2 and maybe in the future. But anything else you guys want to mention about the games? Anything that kind of stood out to you or was interesting? Like, do you feel like Gen.G are kind of crushed after that first game? Do they have a chance to come back at all?
I think the game is gonna be hard to Gen.G because they just prepared to broke down enemy Senna, but they just failed it, and now they have to prepare another plan. So that could be hard for Gen.G. I'm just 기대하다.
Looking forward.
I'm looking forward about that Gen.G is what plans they are waiting for. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to it.
Okay, well, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what is going to happen with game number 2. And speaking of which, it is just about time to throw it over to game number 2, guys. So I'm going to hand it back to Atlas and the caster desk to take us away with game number 2.
네, 세트스코 1대0으로
Thank you so much, Valdanalyst, as finally I am here connected to an audio device. Absolutely fantastic to have Analyst G-Sun there, Reaped and Umpty as well. Umpty is just an absolute class act. Look at that, coming in, no one knew that he was just incredibly good at speaking English, but now just turns up onto the analyst desk, hard carries, absolutely beautiful stuff. And I think a lot of their points were very relevant moving into game number 2. A lot for Gen.G to focus on and repair.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the big key thing I took away from that desk segment is that everyone generally tends to agree that the mentality is a little bit shattered right now, probably for Gen.G. It's going to be a very uphill battle. They're going to have to change how they draft. They're going to have to change how they play. And you know, everybody predicts Damwon Kia to win, you know, obviously except Chronicler, right? But
did you have to do that? Wolf?
Hey, and Jungin.
Jungin also as well, right?
You predicted Gen.G.
But even you predicted a close series. But with this, I mean, the start, it's going to be an uphill battle, as said on the desk.
And my main thing is that I want to see the Senna banned. We talked about this in the break as well.
Yep.
Not even because I think that Ghost's performance on the Senna was mind-blowingly good. Obviously, he provided a lot of sustain, but he did get caught. It's just so that Beryl doesn't get to use his deep rabbit head of like champion pool fiesta picks, where he just picks out something randomly. And it was actually you that mentioned this, Alice. It's the same with the Kalista, and that's why you ban it. It's because you don't want life on set. And if he doesn't have Kalista, he can't play it nearly as well because of the fact that you'd go in and then you just kind of die with Kalista. You have a lot more possibilities. And I'm hoping, I'm fine with the Senna first pick here.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine. Here we are into the draft for game number 2. Gen.G already taking away the Na and the Seraphine. Seraphine, interesting ban on the blue side, but don't want to play the Seraphine do-si-do with the amount of counter picks that both of these mid laners have. We have our 2 Zillion players here in this game, and so it does make things a little bit more difficult. As Damwon Kia, they don't care about priority picks. They care about making sure Ruler is on the most uncomfortable champ possible.
That's right.
And they'll get rid of these 2 that he absolutely demolished T1 on.
I think that for Damwon Kia, you don't have to worry about what you can draft or what you can pick. You just want to limit Gen.G's options because Damwon Kia have such a wide pool of champions they can pull from, and they draft for a late game composition. They're not trying to draft for one player, one specific champion, one early game. They just draft a 5-man squad. Now, Hecarim is left open here for Gen.G, and I think that's what the Narban and the Silas that they were looking for.
But this is actually a terrible situation for Gen.G because you might give up this you might get the Hecarim, right? That's nice. But now Damwon Kia can... Oh my god! Okay, I was gonna talk about Senna. I was gonna talk about Udea. Nope, not happening. It is the Renekton Nidalee, and that is a completely different approach from Damwon Kia here.
Yeah, this is a big change, right? We're not seeing Khan play weak side this time around. They're going for a more aggressive style. This is what I wanted to see from Gen.G, in fact, in this game, but Damwon are just showing more depth once again.
This is really interesting with Tristana being hovered. Okay, that will be locked away. Senna is left up. Damwon Kia can go towards it, and there's a plethora of champions the Beryl can play alongside it. Does it fit into their composition, though, is, I guess, the question, as Gen.G are trying to answer the early pressure.
I think this is going to be a fist fight, guys. I'm seeing Volibear, I'm seeing Hecarim, I'm seeing Tristana, and versus the Renekton Nidalee. This is not going to be a game like last game. Like, as LCK casters, we embrace the 10-minute team fights where both teams don't actually commit. I mean, I love it, Wolf.
I mean, you're
entitled to your own opinion here.
We are a region of StarCraft, right? We were based on that when it comes to esports. And when I played StarCraft when I was a kid, it was no rush 20 because I needed to get my buildings in order. And that is exactly how the LCK works, but not in this game.
I love this Alistar pick, by the way, because you know that if you're Damwon Kia, they're probably looking for the Rel pick. You can take that away now too, because Rel and Tristan is an extremely strong pairing because she has so much mobility. You can set up really nice crash downs into attract repels. So they can ban it away, or they can say, well, you can have the Rel. I don't care because I already have the counter pick in the Alistar. So it's such a strong pick here for Damwon Kia. And they're going to round this draft out with mid and their bottom champions, right? So they're just, again, building towards a response to what Gen G is doing. I like the Volibear here because it can be flexed, can be played in the top lane, doesn't necessarily have to be a jungle. Into this Renekton, we'll have to
it's going to be top lane, right? Because Hecarim's already locked
that's right.
in.
Yeah, of course.
And the Akali continues to get banned against Showmaker, just showing that they have been paying some attention. This guy has been practicing it once again. And another champion that feels like it has to be banned away from Damwon Kia.
And I don't think you can lock in the Syndra here. I can see Gen G go for it, but I think if you look into Syndra, I don't know what Showmaker is going to play, but it's going to be something that has lockdown and it's going to pair well with Nidalee, and you're just going to get killed again and again and again. I mean, this isn't Chovy, so I'm not expecting Renekton mid, right? Like,
I mean, Showmaker's been playing a lot of Kiana in solo queue. He's got Yone in his back pocket.
Oh
like,
my god.
There's some exciting stuff that could happen here as the Kaiser's banned away.
Kiana, that's
I mean, that would be the utter dream, but it is going to be Xayah locked in here first. A bit more defensive bottom lane, something that we've come to expect from Damwon Kia.
I mean, it would be such a powerful early game if they ended up going for the Yone. I do like it a lot here, but it does kind of go away from Damwon Kia's style in general in terms of how they like to play the late game. So it would be a very big departure, and it would be very tempo-based. We see the Zoe now coming through for BDD, so they have a lot of poke with this now. But let's see how this scales up, and I'm not a huge fan of the Rakan pick to come through last. Super squishy, so reliant on flanks, and it doesn't really synergize with the Zoe pick very well.
Yeah, Starcrossed Lovers here on as Gen G locked that one away. I feel you as well, Wolf. I think that it doesn't necessarily add quite as much. I've been underwhelmed by the Rakan as Malzahar being hovered at the moment. A lot of different options now for Showmaker. In the back of my mind, I can hear Vedius's voice asking for a Nocturne, but it will be the Rumble that's locked away. That could be top lane as well, as we don't necessarily know where this Renekton's going, as of course Chovy showed us. It is largely a mid lane champion.
Yeah. And that's actually a big problem, right? Because the Volibear is there meant as a counter to the Renekton. And it's yet again, Damwon Kia just pulling the old mess around in draft. And this last or late draft pivot means that Rascal's playing a matchup he's not happy about. If BDD ever steps up, he's just going to immediately get demolished by the Nidalee Renekton combo, because we've seen this work again and again and again. It's so incredibly strong and impressive. And as a whole, Gen G comps is like, I'm going to go in, and Damwon Kia says, I throw down an Equalizer, I throw down a Featherstorm, and you're screwed.
Yeah, what are you going to do? It's another one of these comps that's very difficult to fight into. One thing that I do see is a little bit of a weakness here for Damwon Kia is that topside, damage is all magic, plus they have no CC to set up for anything for Canyon, so Canyon not going to be heading towards the topside, and Rumble pushes every lane, right?
Yeah.
No matter what you do, he's always going to be shoved up, so it's going to be a lot of very careful play from Khan, and I think that Canyon's going to have to take a lot of control of the jungle and make sure that Clid is revealed as often as Damwon can possibly get it.
This is definitely going to be a game where Canyon has to show the jungle gap, right? He has to actually show his prowess. He is going to be so pivotal in getting this early lead for Damwon Kia. Now, they can scale later on into the game, but I feel like you have to have that mid-game power spike. You really need to hit that, because later on in the game, the poke is there for Gen G. They have a better scaling comp.
Well, and the main thing for me is, can they actually make it work?
We'll get back to your point. Let's get into game number 2. Here we are. Welcome to the Rift for game number 2. And Chronicler, I am so sorry for interrupting you, as we did need to make sure that we are attending the Rift. We did not have the audio issues that we had last time, but I hope you held on to the point you were trying to make.
That's on me, but I'm glad you guys are listening to me after all. I just want to get
always listening.
I just want to get that
worry.
out there, okay? Now we've had that, we can out of the way. We can ignore it for the rest of the series. One thing that Gen G does when they do get ahead is this comp just runs over you, right? Because the amount of hard engage available is so insanely hard to deal with. You have 2 chem tank users plus a Rakan. So if Gen G do actually get an early game lead, which after last game, I'm a bit scared. Coming into the series, I was pretty hyped. Now I'm like, I don't know. But if you do get a lead, sure, Ghost has defensive capabilities, but Canyon, Showmaker, Khan can all blow those up in seconds.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how the mid-game fights are going to go around the first few Drakes, the Rift Herald, right? Because I think if you get priority as Damwon Kia in some of these lanes, you can really crush those objectives, and I think you need to. You need to control the tempo of the game here, because later on, sure, I mean, Zoe is very skill-based and is very based on how much vision you have, which can definitely help control in this matchup. But for Gen G, later on, you're just going to have so much more ability to convert team fights on your terms, right, with the poke damage that they have, whereas Damwon Kia is a little bit more hard engage, right? With the Rumble, with the Renekton. So their fights are very telegraphed, very easy to predict.
Well, having a look at these champions, of course, Khan, he does like to have a few of his one-offs, and this is one that was successful in his Rumble, something that, you know, dates back this guy, the oldest top laner in the LCK, and certainly has been playing in many a Rumble meta, as Canyon just does a bit of a drive-by here in the mid lane, and this is exactly where the focus is going to be for Damwon Kia. Of course, you see Renekton and Nidalee on the same team. It's very easy analysis. They will likely play the early game together, and it will be scary. Speaking of scary, Trouble Bubble lands on a Showmaker in the mid lane, but not quite enough at level 2 to be able to follow up with too much.
And it's a really early roam coming in from Life, making great use of the priority that you do have available with the Tristan early on, of course, as you push in so easily with your explosive shot. Just to make sure that they know where Canyon is, right? They don't actually need to do anything with that knowledge, but playing around that also means that Rascal can go for more aggressive trades, because I think that if you're able to go in for a short trade, you know, get a chomp, get your shield, get a grass proc and run out again, you can be fine. But if Canyon is ever in the vicinity, you do that, you die.
Yeah. It's just really easy to just follow that up, right? And so you do have to show some respect. I think in this early game is where you really need to push the envelope, and we do see Rascal doing just that, trading at this very moment where you know Canyon isn't going to be nearby, he isn't going to be a problem.
Some of these trades can be dangerous, though. I feel like Harpoon lands and then the bear just burns down. He went for the Elderwood skin as well, which is far more flammable than the other skins. Not exactly the optimal choice, but Rascal a bit stuck in his ways when it comes to the skin options. There's now Canyon trying to get position around this Rift Scuttler, and thankfully for Damwon Kia, they're able to move their bottom lane up a little bit earlier, despite the lane position being a little bit better there for Gen G as Beryl explodes towards the end. Damwon Kia really trying to push them out, understanding that they had Canyon there in the river.
Yeah, of course you have no vision, right? So you don't know if Canyon is actually running towards you. So just to be sure, you go for the rocket jump back. Immediate pivot comes out from Gen G as they will secure the topside scuttle. Life still level 2 here.
Yeah, Canyon level 4 has started off these Krugs. 84.2% win rate currently on this Nidalee. Definitely the best one that we have here in the LCK. He's the best at a lot of things, to be perfectly honest, but his Nidalee is certainly exceptional.
You know, we talk about the drafting, we talk about champion pools for Damwon Kia and how they often draft very reactionally, but they have deeper pockets than they often show, and this is one of, I believe, 6 champions that Khan has played one-off this season. And hold that thought.
Yeah, he might be dying as well as Rascal comes on in, teleport immediately down as the turret not going to do enough work. Rascal happy to tank that one up, as it is going to be Showmaker being able to teleport through and clear up the minions, but it's not quite enough. Khan does have his TP, so he can head back towards that top lane immediately, but still good stuff for Gen G.
And now, Showmaker, or BDD rather, can deny so many minions to Showmaker, because he can freeze the wave here if he chooses to. A lot of the wave was killed off earlier there, and you don't get anything out of the teleport. And
yeah, no.
Getting this early snowball on a Hecarim is devastating.
And it can be very, very tough to recover from. As you see, Khan gets picked here, and you know, I was talking about champion pools, right? It's another one-off champion he's had, but Damwon Kia, again, already in the series have shown us 2 different playstyles, right? The scaling comp, and this one's a little bit more aggressive early, but the fall behind early on this Rumble is a big issue now. So Cannon is trying to go super deep. I mean, you can see how frustrating this lane can go, and this is even after he's picked.
This is the depressing thing as well on the Damwon Kia side, because it only gets worse, right? Rascal still has his flash, Khan without it, so if there's a return gank, that's when the real danger starts to hit. And coming back in a Rumble lane has always historically been very, very difficult, as Khan, you can see, half health by a combo out of Rascal. Certainly pulling some control back here for Gen G topside.
Yeah, Rumble's kind of weird in that way because his flame, you know, it doesn't work when you're retreating, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, you can't actually trade aggressively while kiting backwards because you lose your damage, so you're always trading down while behind. So that could be a huge issue in terms of recovering here in this top side of the map.
And with the draft that Damwon Kia has gone for, their mid-game spikes are still very impressive. They can still win skirmishes, they can still blow up people in a matter of seconds. But if this happens 2-3 more times, then all of a sudden those margins become so much smaller, and the possibility for you to go for plays is a lot harder. Clid was spotted there.
Yeah, Canyon's going to find the spear on a B2D though, but they know that Clid is in the area, as you say. Bubble going to connect. Showmaker is going to survive for the moment. Canyon, the more squishy target, will take the paddle star as B2D actually playing this one out very, very nicely. It is certainly a tightrope that Gen.G are walking in that mid lane.
Certainly is. I feel like BDD is once again going to be tested here in the mid lane. We saw him get a little bit out of position, a little bit caught last game. This time if he can tighten it up and hit those triple bubbles and actually be an extremely accurate Zoe like we know he can be, so famous for this champion, then it's a really big way for Gen.G to turn this series around, especially the later game goes on. That's when he is really going to have to be Johnny on the spot. And if he is, I could see light at the end of the tunnel here.
Well, there's a headbutt pole. It's going to be answered by the Grand Entrance as Beryl continuing to go forward, finds himself the trample stun as Rule is diving on top of Ghost. Down to 200 health here as he gets the Blade Caller but finds no damage with it. And now Clid can go for a potential dive as it's only level 5 for the Xayah.
And this is so good for Gen.G if they can snowball this bot lane as well. Level 6.
In goes Clid, finds the Ghost as there's the ultimate. Ghost though is going to try and kite this one out, is burning down though, and he's definitely going to die. Beryl now relegated back underneath his turret, and Rule is just going to jump on top of him. Finds a bit of a reset there as Beryl's surviving for a very long time, and it looks like Gen.G are going to run out of minions. So, just the one pick, but now they're 2-0.
Really nice timing here for this. You know, you see the aggressive trade come through for Ruler because he knows that Clid is coming down. He knows that Clid has 6. He's an extremely good champion. Hecarim is at diving turrets. So great timing. And
uh-oh, that's a huge flash forward, and Ruler just pops him. Good night, Mr. Cow.
Okay, well, hopefully this time it will be enough, because last game we saw Ruler make a big play, not get a follow-up. Now getting fed on Tristana, a pick that snowballs so incredibly well is amazing. The punish does come through, because while that is happening, Canyon clears topside jungle, goes for the Rift Herald here. But I was going to say, you know, getting a kill on Life, not great. Getting a kill on Ruler, amazing.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the dream. 1-0-1 now for the Tristana, as they're trying to set up for some of these mid-game fights that Damwon Kia will have a lot of power in. Now, it is going to be the Herald secured, so Damwon Kia will be able to get that gold lead to about even after that comes down, but where are they going to be putting the money, right? Beryl, you can see, is rotated towards the mid lane, and Showmaker hasn't really been able to get too much done. Of course, finds the stun now, as BDD is going to get traded on. Speaking of trades, though, the equalizer comes down for Khan. He's going to force Rascal to walk this red carpet. It is not a great position. He's buying time as Canyon moves on in. Steals away a cannon creep. Rascal's going to walk away.
That's not what you want. But yeah, the question about the Rift Herald is a tough one, right? Because, I mean, ideally, I think you'd want the money to go to Ghost. When you think about the scaling and where the money needs to go, he's already struggling in lane, though. It's going to be very difficult to actually get a bot Rift Herald off. You're never going to have the priority to do that. Now it looks like they're going to lose control of this Drake, too, and this is probably going to be one of those Rift Heralds you just put down towards the end of its life cycle and you don't get a lot of value.
And this is a true LCK game, because even if the inevitable Cloud Soul comes through, you're very happy about it as Gen.G, because you have Volibear and Hecarim, right?
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh, that's fine. We don't mind it nearly as much. And I'm really impressed because, like you guys, I was worried about the mental state of Gen.G. Like, historically, we've seen this team kind of crumble, and thus far, the early game is looking mint.
It really is.
Well, Rascal might have overstepped just a little bit, but no, we're not going to quite get the rotation in on time for Damwon Kia, as Khan did actually a fair bit of damage there, as he was looking to burn down the Volibear. Currently a 10 CS gap as we have a look at this one more time. As Gen.G really taking control. Really nice stuff bot side.
Yeah, I mean, you have level 6 here. It's super easy to connect this. I mean, Hecarim is one of the best dive champions you can ever have when Damwon Kia's bot lane, their bot duo, is this low. So it ends up being very well played from them. And I have serious concerns about how this is going to go in the future as well, because Ruler's already starting to get fed. You see he actually follows through, flashes, gets the Alistar, and
I think he actually also canceled out the headbutt.
Yeah.
By just rocket jumping and eating it and then doing damage with it at the same time. That was actually just ridiculously sick, as there's the stun down onto BDD. Nowhere for him to go, and we knew that this was the possibility. Finally, Damwon Kia do it.
Cool little equalizer there on the edge from Khan. He's able to make it happen. This is one of the problems of Zoe, right? Very predictable with her teleport jumps. And this is actually going to be the Rift Herald that was going to be so hard to find, so hard to get value out of. They will get it with this pick.
Yep, they're going to throw it into the mid lane. Showmaker and Canyon. Going to have to tank up some turret shots there, but they'll be absolutely fine. And This last one, or second last one, is going to be very, very close to being taken down as well, especially with BDD. No teleport available. Not going to be able to get here. Is Khan going to get stunned up yet again, but the safety of his turret is right there, and he should be okay.
Canyon coming up.
Yeah, not with a whole lot, but if he just lands the spear without a stun, then that's going to help out. Rascal down to about half. The Khan not able to find his way in. Avoids the last spear. Khan finally trying to deal with a lot of this overheating issue that he's been having.
That's a very, very self-confident bear.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the thing is, Clid was rotating up, but he was spotted by a bunch of wards, so it was very confident from Gen G there, but they knew that they were going to be totally fine. And when I say they, Rascal knew he was going to be fine. I really like to see that aggression.
And here's one of the problems with this, right? The top lane, Rumble, doesn't actually provide anything for the Nidalee. You don't have lockdown.
Yep.
Rascal has gone for the Mercury threats combined with another cloak, and it's just so hard to get through that health bar, and that's why Rascal can move up with such impunity, even though help is decently far away.
We'll see what he's going to be able to purchase here as the bubble is going to go wide. Showmaker, that might actually keep him alive here unless Clid can get the work done. Good stun to stop him from getting behind as Canyon's going to move on in. Not a lot of mana. Damonkia are going to back away as now Khan getting back underneath his turret once more, but Rascal's got a shield. He'll be absolutely fine. Things evening out there on the top side. Speaking of even, very even in all of our lanes actually, and the jungle for both of these teams. It's just that kill gold that's helping Gen G out and the plate gold helping out Damwon Kia when it comes to getting this game to be so even.
I'm going to watch this one more time here. BDD, you know, overextending just a little bit. He does not expect Canyon to be there. They don't have vision. And also Khan's perfectly placed ultimate there just makes it so there's no way out. The equalizer prevents him from blocking left. He's got the portal jump, he's stuck. That was a really nicely timed gank. It gets them the Rift Herald gold, which makes us even in terms of the gold right now. But I feel like Damwon Kia need more of an edge than this with this composition. They're also down a Drake right now.
Because Damwon Kia is running into the same issue that you had with the Gen G comp, which is the range advantage, which is weird to say considering you have the Rumble, right? But outside of the Nidalee, you don't really have that much going on in terms of effective range. Rumble needs to be in top of the of those opponents. Showmaker needs to be, and then you have Ghost who kind of just wants to kite back, but the rest of his team wants to play aggressive, go in. Whereas the Gen G team comp is pretty straightforward: hit a bubble and dive in deep.
Yeah, it has great dive. It has great chip damage poke. I mean, you can set up poke to start the fight with the Zoe and then dive in. Like, it kind of is multifaceted in that regard. We have 1 minute until this Drake spawns here.
I've been very generous today, by the way.
Yeah.
Another Cloud Soul is avoided.
Double.
I've been meditating on this just to make sure that we don't get too many Clouds in the final. I wanted at least the first 2 games, so, you know, the jury's out on whether it's going to work for the third one. But, just wanted to let you guys know that I was trying very, very
we appreciate it.
I think I speak for everyone when I say it's really nice of you, Atlas.
Maybe Gen G not so much. Maybe they'd be okay with the Cloud, but
that's true. They got the Hecarim this time around as Beryl moving in slightly aggressively here towards the bottom side as things are very, very even outside of the couple of kills. Thankfully for Ghost, he's been able to continue farming with pretty much impunity as Rascal once again going in being annoying towards Khan, and he's just straight up winning these trades now.
Yeah, and if you were forced to use teleport here as Khan, it's a disaster. You know, he's probably going to have to back and then teleport into the Drake fight. I think this is Damwon Kia's one chance to really grab this game back into their hands and control it as this Drake fight here, turn it around. If you let this one go, I think you just slip too far behind. And he's walking back to top. He hasn't used a teleport. They need to fight for this.
Well, Beryl's going to come on down. Rocket jump out there from Ruler. That's now on cooldown as Spear is soaked by Clid.
And I think as Gen G, you give this one up because this is at a point where Canyon and Showmaker are actually at their scariest, right? Like, this is still when this competition spikes incredibly hard. And as Gen G, unlike last game, you're in a fairly comfortable position here when it comes to the late game.
Well, Khan's fighting Rascal in between his inner and outer turret.
If you can call that fighting.
Yeah, the Volley Bear is having a very, very good time. So maybe I was wrong when it came to the Elderwood skin. Maybe he's like one of those mountain ashes that only gets more powerful after he's been lit on fire.
Maybe they're fireproof.
Or what if it's like one of those woods that has been burned again and again, so it's like it's so charred that you can't actually get through it anymore?
Yeah. Something like that. I'm not entirely sure. There's got to be a blacksmith reference here. But I just don't know enough about it, so I'm just not going to try. As Showmaker going to push in once again, and we'll see whether Damwon Kia can grab themselves this turret. Looks like they might be able to, as the cannon minion is at least dealt with. But nope, Showmaker just clears that one up. So now a lot of map control now in favor of Damwon, Kia, and Wolf. That was your turret. That was your Zoe
yeah,
turret.
as the Zoe turret goes down, so that's going to really eliminate a lot of BDD's ability to actually take pot shots, right? Set up sleeps, be involved around some of these skirmishes. Now, it is an Infernal Drake that we're going to have here, an Infernal Soul coming up, which is actually pretty massive, right? Especially for Gen G's comp, and it's going to really help Zoe out in a lot of these team fights coming up. The fact that they got the first Drake and gave them an extra buffer allows them to skip the Drake, as Connor was saying. You know, you don't want to take that fight necessarily, and this ends up being pretty nice for Gen G, all things considered, even with the Drake, the second Drake going the way of Damwon Kia.
I think if Damwon Kia can stack these, though, then this is their get-out-of-jail-free card, right? Like, if Damwon Kia can set up for fights around Drake, and it's a Rumble, right? We've been talking about Rumble and Dragons for 8 years or 9 years or however long Rumble has been out, right? Because Equalizer is just so good at fighting around these clear positions. That could be a way for Damwon Kia to augment their composition for the late game.
The Infernal map is actually really bad for Damwon Kia though, because there's less enclosed corridors, right? So Equalizer gets less value, you get less value because Ghost loves fighting in small enclosed spaces.
That's true.
Whereas as Gen G, I guess the lack of walls is a bit unfortunate for you, Zoe, but outside of that, you like open spaces, you like having the ability to run in, and I'm glad to see Damwon Kia really try and get more and more leads here, because while I think that they're good enough to actually make it work later in the game, and especially if they do stack an Infernal too, if they ever hit any CC, someone just dies. It's not nearly as secure as we'd like it to be.
Oh, wow.
Goodbye, turret.
That was just wrecked.
That's
straight
good
up.
dunk.
Yes.
I'm concerned too, you know, you guys, about what Damwon Kia's late game team fighting is going to look like, you know, once we do hit like the 30-minute marker. I'm talking the late game, not like the, okay, Baron spawn, we're skirmishing on some of these objectives of late game, because your team fighting is so telegraphed. You miss the spear, you miss the equalizer, like what do you do in that fight? I mean, you have a great front line, arguably, but can Ghost really get in position? It's the range problem that you guys have talked about so much, the recon flanks are going to have to deal with. These are going to be such easy ways for Gen G to take fights on their terms in these later game objectives. And I'm a little bit concerned about how Damwon Kia is going to start off these fights, because to set up the CC with Showmaker is so difficult. Barrel in here, we're going to have to work together, but there's so many ways to disengage as Gen G. Very concerned about how this comp is going to work later on in terms of the front to back.
Actually, I agree with you 100%. I think that Damwon Kia, they need to try and find something now, right? This is a mid-game composition. We've hit the mid-game.
Yeah.
And
this is their moment.
Let's see whether they can actually set up around objectives, because the other thing is like they're engaged, not fantastic, right? You mentioned like try and land a spear, try and get in, you know, Beryl can flash forward, get a headbutt pole, and then they can follow up, things like that. But I think a lot of this does need them to be around an area and utilize that equalizer effectively to break up and create the chaos necessary.
Yeah, any hesitation can really cost you big.
And it's something that Gen G, they don't necessarily have to go aggro, right? Which is a big difference with Damwon Kia, and a big difference because last game it was Gen G who kind of, they had the task of engaging. Sure, their engage was great with the Ornn, which we saw, but we also saw what happens if you pull the trigger and it doesn't work out. They were basically immediately screwed because they were going to get poked out healed, and could never go for an objective. With this composition, however, BDD is going to have just as much pressure. You have a very beefy front line, and the amount of sheer hard engage that you have is just so insane, and even if you miss one of your buttons, it's 2 or 3 more.
Yeah. There's a lot of buttons on this side when it comes to getting in there.
There's only one tanky member, and that's Barrel. And sure, Ghost has Featherstorm, but outside of that, the defensive capabilities, besides try and kill you, are not that great. And try and kill you only works up until a certain point in the game.
I mean, you could tell by the builds they're going for, too, that they're looking for execution, right? Like, I mean, they're going full into the AP damage on the top side of the map. Name escaping me on this item right now.
Night
Harvester.
Night Harvester, thank you. It's going to actually be very aggressive, plus the fact that they've gone for Gale Force, okay, and Stridebreaker. Like, you're looking to execute somebody if you can, but it's just easier said than done. And in these moments, you're just going to get out-chipped. Like, the poke damage is real for Gen G.
If some of these bubbles start to land as well, it gets very, very scary as Canyon pounces out of the way exactly when he needs to. This was the Damwon play from game number 1 as the Herald is shoved in. But in goes Barrel. Rascal going to answer very nicely, and Equalizer goes down slightly ahead of when Damwon Kia needed it.
And now you can't fight very easily as Damwon Kia, you know, that you've used all your tools.
Yeah, now we're looking for the bubbles. Grand entrance from Life. He might explode, but can they actually win the fight? Ruler grabs one as Clid's running out of this one. He should be able to get out relatively safely as the bubble not going to hit the mark. And there it is, the double kill for Ruler. And he's now 3-0, and this has become very scary.
That's an MVP red buff right there. Ruler finds the execution, a beautiful flank, and it looks like Life is throwing his life away, but he's doing so justifiably. That's the Infernal Drake, and that might be the break that Genji needed to really put the pressure to this mid-game composition of Damwon Kia.
You can see the range damage is so much for Genji that when the engage comes through for Damwon Kia, they drop down the equalizer. At that moment, you could see them walking away. You know that it's not going to be a fight they can win. And sure, the counter engage there was really nice. Showmaker got a lot of value. Ruler, by the way, hits 1,500 kills.
Yeah, very nicely done, as BDD's going to have to get out of there. Has to use his flash. Rocket jump from Ruler as Damwon Kia. They ain't done just yet, as Canyon gets over the wall. Doesn't find the spear, though. And now Life getting on further forward. We're teleporting in Equalizer. Really good at corralling Genji right now. But I think they've made it. I think they've made it out as in goes Canyon one more time. He's going to get lit on fire by Life as now, oh, Canyon's in trouble. He has to go golden. Featherstorm's there for Ghost as well, and now Rascal, he has to run away. Can the rest of Genji get here in time? As the Blade Call is good from Ghost. Rascal's still so tanky as Canyon. Gets over the wall once again, but now who's getting corralled? Showmaker tries to say that it's not him, but he'll burn down once again as BDD picks that one up, and Damwon Kia, I think this comp may have run its course as Genji are rolling over them here in Game 2.
This draft has just so many holes in it. There are so many issues in terms of consistent damage and range that they overextend here. They go deep for the chase. They get punished. Canyon, going to be the last to fall. It's going to be a full wipe, it feels.
Yep, Bear versus Cat. I know where my money's at, to be perfectly honest, and that is going to be Canyon slinking away. Genji looking really good. 9-2 now in the kills, despite the fact that it's only a 2k gold lead.
Listen, if Canyon actually has his Damwon Kia world skin, I think this goes completely differently.
Oh,
Just want to throw that out
yeah.
there, right? But the team fighting execution from Genji has been so good here.
And look at this. Once the equalizer is gone, you could see Damwon Kia are really struggling to actually make anything happen. They're just looking for spears. The sleep comes through, and it's go time. You go in, you have a perfect engage. Look at Klid from the flank. And now Showmaker tries to turn it around, but like it's too late. It's too little too late. You're going to get burned down. There's too much range damage. And this problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more Infernal stacks start to come through on these Drakes.
Yeah, the next fight is, this was just an over chase from Damwon Kia. You could see the desperation. They know that their comp is good right now, and it's gonna get worse.
And this is what makes Damwon Kia so good normally, is they recognize what they need to do and execute it perfectly. But Genji, in this situation, is actually able to stay alive for so much longer than Damwon Kia already expect. If Rascal has his ultimate here already, this fight isn't even close. But he's trying to bait as much time, and Genji plays this so beautifully, because if you overextend on this as Rascal, you just get blown up and you lose the fight and you just give up a free kill. Instead, they play it very slow, back and forth, and now I think the composition from Damwon Kia is huge trouble.
It really is. I mean, you can see this becomes a meat grinder. Like, Rascal just locked the door, and there's no way out. And this is just an issue that compounds about stuff. You talk about how they know this comp is strongest at this point, but I feel like the snow is melted. You know, you're rolling the snowball down the hill, but it's not picking up any more steam, right? Like, it's not going to work anymore. And you need a miracle engage now for Damwon Kia. You need a miracle pick.
Well, you can see Rascal continuing to be frustrating for Khan, as well as Damwon Kia trying to hold on to their mid lane as well. In comes Showmaker, though, as Rascal may have overextended. And it looks like he's just going for it, looking for this solo kill. There's the equalizer, and Rascal slowed down. Khan, one auto, Rascal's gonna do it! And that's gonna make it the 1-for-1, and the Baron is already going down.
And you know they don't have teleport. Showmaker can't get over here, he has to walk the long way.
And there is no equalizer available. That's one of the key ultimates that you need in this situation to contest this Baron.
Oh, Bubble is going to connect onto Canyon there as well. Beryl had already gone in. It's exactly not what you want. It's a great buster shot from Ruler as well to try and keep himself alive. He rocket jumps at exactly the right moment to keep himself alive. And now Klid is rolling over the top of it. He'll go down as Showmaker grabs that one. Now BDD could be in trouble. That's a great Zonya's there, and that's going to be it. The triple kill for the Crocodile, and Ruler says, I'll take mine as well. And now Tristana versus the Nidalee. I think I know where my money's at, as Ruler gets some vision. And we'll see whether Canyon can find the spear. The answer is going to be no for now as Ruler. Oh no, the flash forward, but it's answered by Ruler. He's going to find the autos, and that's the outplay.
I feel like we're scraping the butter across the toast here for Damwon Kia, right? Like, everything that their comp is capable of doing, they're almost there, right? They're almost able to make this work. But the longer and longer the team fights go, the range damage really starts to stack up, and you just don't have the tools to keep it up.
We're in a country with such amazing cuisine. You go for buttered toast?
You need what everyone can
analogy,
understand.
okay?
Everyone understands buttering the toast, okay?
All right, they're running out of kimchi, man, and there's no one to give him more panjans, all right?
I can't believe that you did that on the fly as well. That's the perfect analogy if you want to take the Korean route. So I hope that our Korean viewers appreciate it. Is now Damwon Kia looking to try and get themselves back into position, but Canyon's still dead for another second. They are going to be able to at least secure their blue buff by the looks of things, as we got 1 second on Soul Point for Gen G. Beryl, man, he's getting chunked already as in goes cleared, goes out. And he's going to keep himself alive for the moment. Showmaker trying to tank things up as there's another bubble to connect from BDD. Damwon Kia together as 5 once again, but they've suffered some losses when it comes to the health bar. Showmaker knows that they can't give this one up as he tries to get himself back out. The cow is already dead though, as Ghost going forward. Vines cleared now, and that's going to be Canyon locking down the dragon. Canyon still trying to go aggressive here as Zaya already dead. The spears are gonna miss. Gen G, they miss out on the Drake, but they find the team fight once again.
It feels like Damwon Kia are bringing a knife to a gunfight here, Atlas. They just don't have the range. They desperately get the steal. They rush in, but as you mentioned, their health bars are so low by the time they close the distance.
And in this case, the trade-off is not worth it, right? Because Gen G keeps getting more and more and more fed. Sure, you don't give them a Drake. That's nice, you know. The percentage AP and AD is somewhat relevant. But Ruler 7-0-6. This is a threat to Tristana, and you can see how well he positions around these fights as well.
Yeah, this is the classic Ruler bot gap situation, right? This is what we knew Gen G were going to be capable of. How he survived in this fight is ludicrous, by the way.
Unbelievable.
Like, absolutely insane.
He's so insanely low.
He jumps in on an Alistair, gets knocked back into the enemy team, and the rest of his team is still there to support him, right? And this is, again, with a normal composition, Damwon Kia doesn't do this. They don't try to force this, but they have to. They don't have an option. You need to go all in with this composition, because late game, it's just not going to happen.
Oh, this is so sad. Poor kitty.
Yeah. I think I explained that as a Ruler outplay, but I think Canyon may have outplayed himself in that one.
And look at like Gen G's comp has everything, right? They have the hard engage, but they have the poke to back it up. And by the time that Damwon Kia can actually look for this fight, is in live, by the way.
Yeah,
Beryl.
we've got Beryl taking a lot of damage here. Unbreakable Will is decent. He finds a 3-man pulverize, but what's it all for, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, we won't know until we see the replay exactly what happened there. Probably just trying to clear out vision. The objective is so far away. A weird place to get caught here if you're the Alistair. And this opens up opportunities here for the Baron now for Gen G. They could just try to sweep this vision, and Damwon Kia do not have the tools to contest.
Yeah, Rascal actually just takes no damage from this top side of the map as Ruler will pop the Rumble. My God, the damage is ludicrous. He's got his Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon, as well as his Kraken Slayer, and there's no one that can soak this damage.
It's what we said. Once Gen G gets ahead, they have so much engaged. They can just run at you so fast. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, this is a roll over the top by the looks of things as the Baron taken down to about half health. The fight is on, but the bubble is good from BDD. Ghost trying to get some autos. The stun comes down onto Rascal. He's actually kiting this pretty well. But Gen G, I mean, they're just happy to throw Rascal and Clit into the front line, and they can just do what they want.
I mean, the clock is on their side. The clock is 100% on Gen G's side. So yeah, if you start a Baron here and Damwon Kia have to use all their resources to deny it, they lose Con, and then they still, yeah, sure, you stop the Baron, but that's just burning down the clock, which favors Gen G because they're very excited to take this next Drake. They're ready to take the next fight. This is how Beryl gets caught by himself, looking like he's just clearing vision all alone.
Yeah, just no one there to back him up, and even if there were people to back him up, I don't think they would save him, because this is not a position you should be in. And normally I'd look at what does Damwon Kia do, because they're so good at finding these openings. However, with this squishy composition, you see the problem. I think even if Ruler gets blown up, which, provided how the game has been going so far, and the fact that he has a stopwatch is seemingly unlikely, even if he gets down, or goes down rather, this is not a composition from Gen G that will lack damage. Hecarim has an insane amount of damage still. Volibear has been doing a lot. BDD has been playing really well. And there is no tanks on Damwon Kia. There's not a sign that's not gonna that's gonna tank everything that you want the moment that Ruler goes down.
And look at the items too. Like with all the AP damage you talked about in the draft, Atlas, it's super easy to itemize against the damage of Damwon Kia. It's super easy to counter that. You could see the Spirit Visages coming through, Force of Nature. How do you actually kill these tanks?
Well, I mean, Canyon and Khan are so much of what their recipe for success was, and there's a 0-6 Rumble on the side of Damwon Kia, and look, I've casted many a Rumble in my time. This is often how it goes, right? He's a feast or famine champion. I had the joy of casting Marin when he was over in the LPL, and this is exactly what had happened. It's either 6-0 or 0-6, right? There is no in between when it comes to the Rumble. So I'm not going to, say that Khan is terrible, blah, blah, blah. That is not true. That you have to play forward. You have to play aggressively to make this work, and it straight up has not.
It's the Jace problem, right? If you're not getting pressure in the lane, you're not doing anything. The problem was that Clid played around that so well in the early game, and I think Rascal on this Volibear has been so good.
Oh, in goes Clid. He does get pulverized, though. Now back underneath the turret as Canyon will get on top of him. Beryl's the one that locks down the kill as BDD finds some bubbles. But goodbye, Clid, an overextension
15
here.
seconds before the Drake. 15 seconds to go.
This is a disaster. Gen.G, I think they might actually still have options when it comes to fighting Damwon Kia because they are so strong right now. But Beryl, he's going to go in. Look at Ruler, still at full health right now. Beryl's going to get popped as in goes Rascal Showmaker, trying to be the hero. Ruler, though, is going to flash his way out. Goes Golden at the end, but he's so extraordinarily low, and Ghost will get that 1,000 Golden now. Damwon Kia, look at the Baron.
This is the Damwon Kia we're talking about. You're behind. Your comp isn't strong in the late game, but you make the plays to turn the game around.
And now Rascal's going to get picked off as well. This is 100% a Baron going over to Damwon Kia. Is this enough of a throw, though?
I don't know if this in itself is enough, but I'm looking at the mental of the Gen.G players. This is crippling, right? If you lose this game...
You lose this game, you lose the series, basically.
it's over, yeah.
It's over. You can't lose this. Just the Baron is not going to be enough, though, because Damwon Kia still has the same issue. The wave clear is good for Gen.G, but you need to shore this up. Just try to forget about this immediately, but this cannot happen again.
Overextending here, into an Alistar, right? Because Alistar has the ability to just instantly ult, turn around, bump you back into the turret. So it's a huge overextension that's going to cost you big. And Damwon Kia did not settle for one. They forced the issue here.
Yep, and Beryl's just reminding everyone that this is his Alistar, right? Look back to 2019, he was 100% just the best Alistar that we had. He demonstrated that at Worlds, and he's showing us it here now. He's got caught out a few times, but we know what his capabilities are as Rascal chased down in the end as well, and Damwon Kia, they're going to need more miracles than just this.
It's also Showmaker actually getting on top of Ruler, because if Ruler doesn't die there immediately and doesn't get stunned by the Renekton on top of an Equalizer, that fight might still be won, even though it was a 4v5. Instead, he clears so much distance, finds the blow up, and now Gen.G, they're still fine, okay? They can still make this work. I'm more worried about what this does to you as a team, because you need to still be confident to continuously engage, right? And now a single lost fight around the Drake can suddenly mean a mountain soul for this Damwon Kia
The
team.
variance of this game has gone up super high. Like, the chances of Damwon Kia winning this game have gone up astronomically after this, because the two objectives they got for free are the two hardest you can get with their comp, right? Like, it's so difficult to win those fights, but if you overextend as Gen.G and you give these objectives for free, Damwon Kia gets objectives they're not supposed to have in this game, right? And this is a huge problem. Now you have two Void Staffs online.
Yeah, now Canyon is 2 levels ahead of Clid as well. So you can see, Canyon's somehow sitting on a 9 KDA in a game that, Damwon Kia was losing from a very, very early stage. Not necessarily sure how he did it, but I guess he's just been staying away from the problems that Damwon Kia have been having and just slowly but surely farming up. He's a legit damage threat right now with his Void Staff online, moving towards what looks to be his Rabbidan's Death Cap as item number 4 after the Zhonya's were already complete. So maybe he'll be able to find something. And of course, I look at Nidalee like I look at Blitzcrank, You land that one spear onto the carry and execute them, it changes the flow of a game a lot.
Yeah.
The amount of times it happens, very slim. The amount of times Canyon's done it,
a lot.
Larger than a lot of other players.
And this is the variance I'm talking about. You get one pick, you make one mistake as Gen.G, you could lose this game now, because now we're 35 minutes into the game, right? And they actually have 2 Infernal Drakes, so this is a game that you should have won no matter what. I mean, you had it locked down.
I think it's still Gen.G favored at this stage, right? It still has to be.
But now there's chances for Damwon Kia. Now they can actually win some of these fights potentially. If you get one pick, you could win the whole game. You could go up 2-0.
And the important thing for Gen.G here is twofold. Don't get baited into an Equalizer